Here we go.
Cut the fix up with some Xbox babies, put the switch up. See me gearing up for war, don't get it mixed up. I come in peace, kid. I'm bringing commentary and the new releases. I put them hours in to get prepared now. We play on expert level, don't get scared now. I'ma destroy you when I'm frozen, I can tear down. If you ain't tuned into the channel, keep your head down. Cut the fix up with some Xbox babies, put the switch up. See me gearing up for war, don't get it mixed up. I come in peace, kid. I'm bringing commentary and the new releases. I put them hours in to get prepared now. We play on expert level, don't get scared now. I'ma destroy you when I'm frozen, I can tear down. If you ain't tuned into the channel, keep your head down.
Hey, yo. Good morning, or should I say good afternoon, everyone. Thank you all for being here for a special episode of The Fix. I'm here with two of the community greats and content creators at that. And that's with SloMo backslapping Lucius Augustus. Yay! I got to get some like laugh and clapping tracks. So you all just going to take these physical clapping tracks for yourself now.
Nobody can hear that.
Nobody can.
I could barely hear it, so I don't think they did. But like, yeah, we were gonna pretend like we heard her clapping. It's all good. It's all good.
Hold on. Here we go. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, thank you all for being here. We got a special show today. It's going to be a spoiler discussion, but for those who have not played through Avowed just yet, don't worry. We won't go through much of the spoilers until the very end, where we'll have the story discussion. So you can rest assured you'll be here just fine, just listening to everything else that we talk about, and it shouldn't spoil you too much on anything. Before we get started, let me introduce properly my guests outside of their names. Lucius, my good brother, tell the good folks a little bit about yourself. I know you've been here before, of course. For those who would be paying attention, they would know. Tell the folks a little bit about yourself and what you've been up to.
Yeah, I'm a gamer just like everybody else. I am a part of the inner circle of the Gaming Circle podcast, and we love having people come and discuss vigorously their beliefs about video games. So always show up if you can to those sort of discussions. But yeah, what I'm playing recently, I've been playing Monster Hunter Wilds after I played Avowed for 100 hours. I went through one playthrough in Avowed, and I'm in the middle of a second playthrough, but Monster Hunter Wilds came out, so I was like, all right, I gotta jump on that. And outside of the varying performance on Monster Hunter Wilds, it's a great game. I'm really enjoying it. I just came back from a business trip, and after this podcast, I'm definitely going to be jumping back on.
Nice, very nice. Yeah, man, it's got a bit of a addictive quality to it. So it's really interesting because I literally wrapped up Avowed earlier today. Like,
oh, okay.
Yeah, I literally just wrapped it up about 6 or something in the morning, something like that. And I'm just very, very paced when it comes to games like this. Like I want to go do everything, right? So I racked up a lot of hours. That Fog of War is really what did it for me. I'm telling you, it was like I was like a moth to a flame. I couldn't stop myself from continuously trying to clear out foggy areas that I could not get to. So much so that I modded it out. Like I'm going to get these areas one way or another. But yeah.
You say you modded it out?
I literally put a mod in that clears out all the fog.
Because there are some parts of
okay, I
the map,
got
there
you.
are some
Yeah,
parts of the
I see
map
what you
that
mean.
even you literally can't get to it. Like you physically can't get to those parts of the map. So the map is never 100% cleared out. It'll be like 87% cleared out. Because like there are some parts of the mountains that you literally can't get to, and that fog of war is still there. So I completely understand what you mean, Umbra, because I was very much trying to clear out the entire map, and then there are just some parts that you just can't get, and it just doesn't look perfect.
Yeah, and it's frustrating as hell. It's like, man, I want to see this. It's such a crazy OCD thing, and it's been like that for me for a long time. And I mean, the best RPGs did it. The best Western RPGs like Skyrim, Oblivion, they did that. And I noticed as I got older, like that's part of some type of capture for me. It's something that actually does work on me and keeps me engaged. I don't know what it is, but I don't know what it is. But yeah, man, I guess I do want to get you guys total hours too. So definitely state that. You said you had about 100, right?
Yeah, I had about 100 hours between 2 different playthroughs so far.
Nice.
I'm in the middle of a second playthrough, yeah.
Okay, cool. And to our second guest, I would have said last but not least, but so it's 3 of us. It sounds stupid. So to our second guest, the illustrious SloMo backslap. Yay. Okay. Let me give you a better proper introduction to our illustrious.
Oh, you're good, man. That's good enough. It's good enough.
Okay,
yeah, I'm good.
I'm trying to be real nice.
I don't need the.
All right.
I don't need the glowing accolades and everything. I think my name speaks for itself.
No,
I'm sorry. I'm kidding.
Yeah.
I'm kidding. Anyway, no, I have I've beat Avowed twice so far.
Yeah.
And I think I'm done for now at the very least. If I decide, hey, I want to go back into it with a completely different build and just run through it again, I might, sometime down the road, but I've already uninstalled it. I did enjoy my time with it. I think it took me maybe, actually, the Xbox app says it took me about 67 hours for what I did in both of them. So in both playthroughs total. So yeah, I enjoyed it and had a good time with it.
Yeah, man. I am very pleased with my time in. I did hear a bit of what you were saying, like your commentary of the game, what you thought about it. I mean, we'll get to that, of course, later on, but I did hear a bit. Me looking at my hours, I have 4 days and 18 hours, which is 114 hours. So nothing super insane, but still, a decent amount. And again, a lot of that was due to that damn fog of war. I'm telling you right now, like I would have been done. But yeah, that's cool. But like outside of this, what have you been up to outside of Avowed? I didn't properly set that up for you. Outside of getting Avowed finished, what have you been up to and everything like that? I know you. And if those who don't know, SloMo is he's on 2 different podcasts, right? Currently, that's BRAPs and that's of course you and Forte podcast, of course. So
DPS Podcast,
DPS.
Damage Per Second Podcast. Yep. What was the question?
Just wondering.
Sorry, because my daughter came down here asking me 5 million questions, so I was trying to pay attention to both at the same time.
Hey,
go ahead again.
You got to be a stellar father too. But I was going to say, what have you been up to outside of Avowed and things like that? What have you been?
Oh yeah, I've been, I like my black hole game, so I've been playing a little Fortnite. I played a little bit of Fortnite last night with my friends. We had a good time, coming in second place every single time. Marvel Rivals, they got the whole, they got the pimpin' hose skin right now for Cloak and Dagger. That brought me back, just to see Cloak, I know it's terrible, but I did it. And Call of Duty, I've been playing a lot of Call of Duty, shooting a lot of faces. Yeah, that's mostly been it. As far as single player games go, after I beat Avowed, I started playing through Mass Effect 1. Yeah. And I'm when I get to the GOAT, the greatest Mass Effect game there is, the best Mass Effect game, Mass Effect 2. Yeah. I will be streaming that on the DPS channel. Outside of those two, there's nothing else I'm really playing. As far as the single player games at the moment, I'm fairly certain. Exhibition 33 and South of Midnight are probably going to be next up for me in regards to what I'm looking forward to single player wise. But I'm always playing something.
Yeah, for sure. That's the thing, man. I mean, we got a crazy list of games dropping this year. Hell, Splits Fiction surprised some people, right? Like people weren't even.
That's it.
Yeah.
I forgot about that one. I am going to play that. I need to buy that because me and shout out to Ramon Terrell,
nice.
actor extraordinaire. Me and him were supposed to be running through that, so I need to buy that this weekend. So thanks for reminding me.
Yeah, no doubt. I see Roman often in you guys chat. So yeah. Yeah, man. That's dope. I still love how EA does that, or at least Haze Light, if you will, how they allow for EA does it ultimately. They allow for you to have one person buy it and another person get essentially a free copy to play. It was a pass.
Mm-hmm.
That's just really dope.
I mean, part of the reason why they do that is because you cannot play the game without somebody else.
True. That is
like
right.
it is impossible for you. And so because that is a base requirement, I think that it's good that EA does that, but also B, that Joseph Fares is still able to make those types of games.
Yeah.
Where he's like, I'm going to force you to have an experience with somebody else because that is at least part of what makes gaming great. Yeah.
No, yeah, you're right. It's a two-way thing, right? It's not a just. They're not just doing it out of the kindness of their heart. They're not being altruistic.
No, it's necessary for the game, but at the same time, his ability to be able to convince very stubborn executives that barely know anything about gaming to agree to that, not once, not twice, but 3 times now, is very, very commendable. And I think that Haze Light, especially considering I haven't played it yet, but the reviews have been very, very positive. Here's yet another game of theirs that has critical acclaim. I think, especially if they get into the game of the year conversation later this year, which it seems like they might, that, people need to start, looking at Haze Light Studios as more than just, that indie darling with the funny, lead man who sit after Oscars at one time. I think people need to start taking them a little bit more seriously when it comes to being among like the best developers out there.
Yeah, and I agree with you. Like this right here, especially if they're at least nominated for Game of the Year, it should elevate them even further as far as their profile, right? I would definitely agree with that. And I mean, by all accounts, that seems to be the case. And it's got that early Game of the Year buzz, it looks like to me. 90s, 91, 90, I think, meta, something like that. So, yeah, shout out to Joseph Fares and that group and that studio and EA for doing what they do. What did I do with that note? Let me see something. Okay, there we go. So let's go ahead and move to the roundtable discussion. We'll start off with, and shout out to our brother Aaron, for Stilo. Do you say we're sounding low to you? Are we low volume wise, guys? He says song low, so I just want to make sure if that's
apparently I'm too loud.
You too loud.
Yeah, SloMo's mic is much better than ours, or his. So just balance us compared to SloMo.
Let me balance this out. All right.
I have only the best mics.
This is a humble brag. That's all it is.
The same way I only play the best games. So this is why I don't play Sonic games, because who would play Sonic?
Okay, so it was just me, I think, that was sounding low. I think I was sounding low because I was talking somewhat away from the mic as I looked away from to my phone. So my apologies. Okay. So shout out to Aaron for this thought as we discussed this. He gave us the thought of, what is our relationship with this series and with Obsidian as a developer. So I guess I'll start with you, Lucius. What would you say your relationship with Obsidian is as a developer, and as far as your relationship to the lore of this world of Eora? Eora, is it Eora?
Eora. Yeah,
Eora.
Yeah. What is your relationship to those two?
So for Obsidian, I have been following Obsidian for a very long time. I've played a good amount of their games. I've loved their games. I've also loved the writing in their games for a very long time. I think that considering that you have Obsidian, you have Bethesda, and then you also have the Wasteland devs, the ones that are coming out with Clockwork Revolution. I can't remember what they're
In Exile.
In Exile.
In Exile.
Yeah.
Those all three of those essentially came from the same origin, and
I'm missing one. But BioWare came from there as well.
BioWare came from there as well. So all from Interplay, right? So it's like since I've been a kid, I've been following all these different children of the like one developer that I loved, and then like they broke up into these smaller different things, and they've always kind of created interesting games, and I've always loved the different types of games that all of these different places created. So Obsidian has always been in my heart for a very long time. So that's just about them as an organization. Pillars of Eternity is a good series. I think that my biggest problem with it is I tried to get into Pillars of Eternity 1 and 2 through console, and they tried really hard to make a like console controls for that game, but I just don't think that they executed it right. So it made it very difficult for me to be able to play those games. But I always really loved the story associated with those games. I love the idea of like a fantasy world that incorporates science into it, and where it's not just like, oh, everybody, like it's not based off of like 1400s Europe. It's actually based off of like the mid 1800s, early 1900s kind of time frame. And so because of that, you're going to have a mix of different aspects that like, for example, the fact that you have guns and also magic and the study of souls, a place where you know exactly what's going to happen to you when you die. So and we know the process of what happens when we die. In a world like that, how do people live? How do people treat themselves? How do they treat others? How is it that you treat life and death? A lot of things about our life is, you know, we don't exactly know exactly what's going to happen. Some people have, you know, belief, they have faith in one thing or another, but you don't know. And what happens to a society when you know? I find that incredibly interesting, and we can get into I won't get super deep into like why I love the world as much, because that might get into some super deep spoilers, which I will get into, you know, near the end of it. But all that to say is that it's a very interesting world that's chock filled with interesting decisions and interesting people.
Yeah, that's well said. Also, too, like, I don't know enough about the lore of this world personally. I didn't get a chance, by the way. I did not get a chance.
I sent you that lore video and you still didn't watch it. I sent you that thing 3 weeks ago and you still haven't watched it. This is the of our friendship, everybody. I can send him something and he'll be like, all right, and then never look at it.
For those that don't know,
he fell asleep. He fell asleep right before he was going to watch it, like how he fell asleep right before this podcast.
He didn't even let's not even give him that much grace. He never even clicked on that thing. He didn't even click on that thing.
For those that don't know, I personally hold Lucius responsible for a very major decision in this game. that.
Yeah, we'll get into that. We'll get into that near the spoiler section of how I warned you explicitly about how to do a very specific thing if you care about like getting the best ending, and then you just completely ignored me, and then certain things happened.
I feel like if you're gonna tell me something, you have to make sure that it sticks, and he just didn't do that. So
it's not my responsibility to get you to listen. It's not.
Oh my gosh, that's crazy, bro. Just like, hey, look, you didn't convince me. Like you told me, but you didn't say it well enough to convince my stubborn behind to actually do what you said.
Exactly.
So,
that's what
this
I'm saying.
is on you.
That's what I'm saying. SloMo.
It's basically
I'm a normal person, not a politician. I'm not trying to get your vote. All right. I'm trying to inform you. If you don't listen, that's on you.
Listen, all I'm saying is that this decision, when I saw it would happen, it really shocked me, and I was like, I'm blaming somebody, and it ain't gonna be me. So
ain't gonna be the person that was responsible. Understood.
It ain't gonna be me. But what about you, Slo? Like, what for you? What was your relationship with the lore of Eora and this world with the Pillars of Eternity IP and Obsidian as a developer? What's your relationship with that?
I'll answer both questions all in one. I don't have any experience with the Pillars of Eternity games prior to Avowed. I own them, and I just never got around to actually playing them. I think I may have played the very beginning of the first one and then got distracted with something and never came back to it. And so I kind of came into Avowed really kind of ignorant of the world, the lore, the themes, the everything that involved in like how the characters are kind of interwoven together with how that lore works. And I did find it very fascinating. Now, I will have more enthusiasm now to go play the first two Pillars games. Pillars
so you watched the lore video? You watched it?
I didn't. I intentionally did not watch it, by the way, because I didn't want it to kind of color my going into this roundtable color.
Okay, but you're gonna watch it after this.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm watching it tonight. I actually kind of like almost watched it yesterday anyway, but I was like, nah, I think I should just not watch it because I played through the game twice without it. I still kind of feel like not having played those games. I think Obsidian did a great job in explaining the world, going over events that occurred in the previous games in a way that wasn't like droning on or just like, yeah, and here is the recap kind of like thing, but just kind of explaining it in the context of conversations where it was an easy thing to be said, because your character, the envoy, would not be privy to some of the information that you are being told by other characters who may have been around events that occurred in the previous game. So it makes sense, right? I do really like the idea of the will. And so for those who aren't aware, like the will is essentially what people call reincarnation in this world. Like you die and then you get placed on the wheel, and where you come out in your next life, you could have been a rich king, and then you died, you come out and you're like a three-legged dog or something, like, or you're like
or
a tree, right? It's
or a peasant, the wheel smaller.
Right. I thought that was fascinating, and I thought that like as Lon mentioned, the ability to like that like the people there are just fully aware that that's how the world works, and they're cool with it. They just like you see some characters in the game that's just like, hey, I'm ready for the wheel, man. I've been alive too long. Let's get this going. Like, I mean, I ain't ready to unalive myself, but man, I'm trying to see what the wheel going to do for me, because I don't like where I'm at right now. And like that's a very different perspective of characters that you don't see in other games. So, I thought that was well done.
So let me ask you to that point of that. Like, I did hear the unvoiced speak of the wheel. I heurd obviously the voice in your head, etc. We'll get to that in a second, but So are you saying that the denizens of this world, they are keenly aware of the wheel? They know about the
Yes.
reincarnation. Okay.
Yes.
That's interesting.
And you see it mentioned frequently in conversations throughout the game.
Mhm.
My experience with Obsidian goes back decades, like two decades to be exact, because I played BioWare's Knights of the Old Republic,
Mhm.
and I played that launch. Fantastic, loved it. Groundbreaking to me in storytelling and in the kind of RPG it was. That was probably one of the very first Western RPGs I've ever played. And so growing up and playing a lot of Japanese RPGs, Chrono Trigger, the Final Fantasy games, you know, those kind of RPGs, this was so different, and it really hooked me. So when it turned out Obsidian was making, who I had no idea who they were, and most people didn't because this was their first game, was making Knights of the Old Republic 2, the Sith Lords, I'm, day one, I'm there. And I would say, and I think most people kind of agree with this, it wasn't as good as the first one, but that didn't change the fact it was damn good. It was a damn good RPG with really good storytelling, and I think they really expanded upon the systems in play when it came to combat with Jedi stances and using a particular stance for a situation. If you're going up against stormtroopers and they're shooting, the lasers at you, you would switch to a stance where you could very easily deflect the laser beams back. Or if you're going against one Sith or one Jedi alone, you would switch to a stance that was more about dueling. Like, that incorporation was a very smart idea, and I think that the writers they had then took what BioWare created and ran with it in a way that was well done. So like, I played through that. I played South Park's The Stick of Truth, which is
that was funny as hell.
So underrated. Like that game is, I mean, to really capture the South Park universe and the humor. And of course, they worked with like the creators of South Park as well. But it's not easy to kind of capture, especially when it comes to comedy and a particular brand of comedy, to really get that tone and feel where people who are intimately familiar with that IP in a different media say, yeah, this is definitely South Park.
Yeah,
like, and they did that.
100%. I was actually blown away by how good that was, like representation wise. Like, wow, this is really close. Not even close. It's like you could tell that the love from that show was all in that.
Yeah. The Outer Worlds, love the Outer Worlds. I beat that twice as well. Really enjoy that. I like the universe they created, and now I'm looking forward to the sequel later this year. I did play Grounded. I wasn't really all that into Grounded. I did stream it, which was kind of funny. Getting punked by ants and ladybugs was
Grounded
was
at
interesting.
nighttime was some of the scariest, because if you didn't have a light source, you would hear all these like ants, spiders, everything around you, and like around the corner something could just like, oh bro, man, I was terrified.
Let me tell you.
Yeah, my friends were the ones that like they play stuff like Minecraft all the time, and so like they love survival games, and me and some of my friends, like, I will play games just because they want to play it. So I only played Grounded because they wanted to play it. And whenever they were like, "Hey, we getting on," we done built this entire castle.
I would log into
like
my
leaves and twigs.
So much stuff.
Yeah, and I'm just like, I would just go into the game and be like, "Wow, y'all built all this?
There's an entire economy in here. What the hell's going on?"
For real.
Right.
Y'all built the Sears building. Like, what's going on, bro?
Yeah. It's crazy.
There's that.
That was largely a lot of that for me too. I will admit.
Yeah, and Pentiment.
Mm-hmm.
I'm probably one of the very small. You could probably count us all on one hand the number of people who defend Pentiment tooth and nail, because that game got a lot of flack for its visual presentation. It wasn't a looker. The art style was absolutely what it was supposed to be and intended to be of that time period. And people was just like, ew, ugh, what is this crap? But like, if you play the game and you actually pay attention, the story is fantastic. Might be one of the best stories that they've ever done. I haven't played all their games, so I can't say that for certain.
Yeah.
But Pentiment's story is awesome. It really carried the game, and you know, I think it's massively underrated. And so I say all that to say that I've got experience with Obsidian and their games, but not all of their games, but enough to kind of like have a certain expectation for Avowed that I think they lived up to in some areas, and then some areas they didn't live up to for me.
Yeah, I think that's well said. And I'm also, just to throw it out there, I'm also one of the Pentiment, I don't want to say super fans, but I'm also one of those people who played through it and thoroughly enjoyed it. The writing absolutely was pretty stellar. I agree with that. I love that you could have multiple different angles of how the story ends, which is very Obsidian. And I mean, it mattered ultimately, like what you did in that game. And so you have to be careful what you do, because it could lead to different outcomes.
And how you talk to people and all that.
All of that. Yeah, it's very creative in a way. It's not a gamey type game though, so I can see why some weren't like, okay, I'm gonna play this.
If you are a fan of visual novels, like if you've played visual novels in the past, if you've played like the Somnium Files, if you played 999, if you've played games, Danganronpa, like if you enjoy games
the
like
name
that,
of that lawyer game, Ace Attorney.
Oh
Like
Ace Attorney. If you played the Ace Attorney games, the Phoenix Wright games, like 100%, you will enjoy the game, because it is heavy on the story.
A mystery.
Yeah, it's a mystery. You're figuring all this stuff out slowly but surely. Like,
and your choices matter.
And
your choices absolutely matter in the grand scheme of things. And as you get later into the game, you really find out how your choices impacted things to a very strong degree. And the ending, I think, is very, very impactful. It's one of those games where after you're done, you just kind of I don't think I'm just going to do anything right now. I'm just going to kind of sit around and just think about, what happened. Yeah.
I agree with that.
It's that kind of story.
It really is. And I would say, excuse me, to add to that, another part of its strength is the matter of the side characters and people you meet along the way. And like, they add a lot of depth once you really talk to them and learn who they are and how they view their families and friendships and things like that. And it's just really dope. It really does give a small town kind of charm from back in the day, and you just got to figure this mystery out. It's really dope. So I will say, for my experience, Pentiment is one with Obsidian, Fallout New Vegas, obviously, Outer Worlds, which was great. Looking forward to Outer Worlds 2. Didn't play much of the Old Republic 2, but I did enough to get an idea. Alpha Protocol, of course, as well, played through that. Much like you pointed out with South Park, The Stick of Truth, enjoyed the hell out of that for what it was worth. Very funny, very well done, like superbly done, actually. They deserve more credit for that. And going back to Grounded, I had to chime in on that because I did help build some of the little civilizations we did build in there. But I played with Risk It. I played it with, at the time, Doom Cutie, and my boys, Jedi Knight Peter and Wolf. And let me tell you, white folks, and I mean this, affectionately, our white brothers and sisters, they play games much like they live life, and that is adventurous. Me, I am very much a blackety black type, where I see danger, and I'm gonna let you go investigate first.
Right.
My black sense start tingling. So I see like the tree bushes and whatever moving, and I'm like, that don't look normal to me. I'm gonna stay over here in the base.
This is what I'm saying. This game is actually pretty scary.
It
but
is.
you have to push out. You have to adventure. You have to figure out new things. But you will die. You will die.
I do have something to say real quick, and I wanna know who at Obsidian decided that the visual look of the spiders looking like they're dead when they're not, I need to have words with you. Because the very first time I ran to a spider, it was like, you know how like when you see a dead spider, it's like on his back, his legs are all kind of like folded in. That's how I saw the first spider I ran. I'm like, that's a dead spider. I know what a dead spider look like. And I got close to it, and the thing just like flipped over, like it was, and it was like.
He's like,
no, there are some spiders that do that in real life.
He's like,
there are some spiders that do that in real life on purpose.
Yeah,
it's a prey tactic. It's a predator tactic. They act like they're dead to make it seem as if the prey sees that you're dead. Oh, I'm safe in this area. I can scavenge for food. Someone killed this spider. Nope. Like this is something that they do in real life.
That sounds
okay.
Like
so let me change my anger. I'm not angry that you got spiders wrong. I'm angry you still put that in the game and scared the crap out of me. So that now I'm angry about something else completely separate. I still want to have words with you because I was like, yeah, it's a dead spider. Let me just go do my business. And that thing jumped. I was like, oh hell no! I started running. I ain't make it far. Grounded is something.
It's so funny because we were heading out of the base. It's getting nighttime. I'm like, why don't we just wait till this morning? And then,
bro, it gets dark fast.
It does, and you got risk it in them. They Australian, so they deal with this Jumanji nonsense. I don't know.
Yeah, they got like mutant versions of everything that's in like the scale of what miniaturize you to those things is like what they got in real life in Australia.
Yeah, so they got actual bugs. They might drag your children away. I don't have time for that. So
Australia is actually Jurassic Park. It's crazy.
For real. I call it Jumanji land. But and they're like, oh, come on out here, Mike. It's all right. You just got to make sure you check your shoes and your doorsteps and your ceiling. And I'm like, I don't have. If I have to do all that, like I don't want to go there. I have to do all that and check for snakes and alligators or whatever, crocodiles, whatever they got over there, crocodiles and small little frogs that might poison you and kill you. I don't have time for that. And face hugger looking spiders like the what they call that damn thing? What is it?
I don't know. It looked like
I can't remember it, but
the ones that be like in the corner of your ceiling and they just waiting for you to move so they can pounce on you. I'm not trying to deal with none of that.
Yeah,
they keep all that.
They got huntsman. That's what it is. Huntsman, and they got another one. And I just don't have time for any of that. It's disgusting. And I hate spiders, by the way. So we're not even talking about the little like elephant in the room. They have kangaroos that trying to box all the time. Yeah, kangaroos. And then the boxing part isn't the problem. It's if they put the tail back and kick their hind legs out to kick you in your chest, that'll be the problem.
You're done.
Yeah,
you're cooked.
You're done with. And they seem nice and cute, but they're not. Some of them are like super swole too. By the way, I have time for these damn Jurassic like mammals, whatever the hell they are. Anyway, so that said, I see the little trees moving, or at least the leaves, right? And I'm like, yo, dog, that don't look right. I'm telling Risk it into the gang. And I'm like, yo, hey, y'all might want to come back to the base. Things not looking good. They're like, no, mate, we're good. We're coming over. We're about to we're about a juice bar or whatever that thing was, that little juice box. I mean, we found out how to get the juice. I'm like, yeah, something's gonna get you too, though, and find out how to get yours. Because I see these leaves moving, and I don't think the wind is doing it. And sure enough, you just hear them start screaming like, ah! I'm like, what? I'm like, what is it? What is it? It's a spider. I'm like, yep. I turned right back around and ran right back into the base
to die. That's crazy.
They were like, Umbra, come and help me. I'm like, I'm not coming out there. I told you multiple times that the leaves were moving, and you didn't want to listen to me.
You were warned.
Yeah, black people don't go out there like that. I told you what it was. You made your decision. I'm not going to suffer with you all. They got all bit up and beat up and dead, and they died and had to come back. That's on y'all. But no, that said, enjoy the
I wanted to shout out the South Park Stick of Truth and Fractured Butthole because both of those are on sale on Steam. You can get both of them for like $12 right now.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, good luck, because I may pick those up and play through them sometime soon.
I just might do that again as well. I had it on Xbox, so I might as well get them on PC.
I never finished the Fractured Butthole. So wonderful name, by the way.
You know how long it
but
took me to realize that's what it was?
you may not want to admit how long that took you, man.
I was like, fractured butthole. I was like, wait, fractured butthole? I'm like, oh. Yeah, shout out to Trey Park and Matt Stone. But let me read a few of these super chats. Thank you all in the chat for this. Soil Tech, our good brother, he drops a generous $1.99 donation. Soil Tech, you don't think you could put an extra penny just to make it $2? I'm just, just saying. I'm just messing. Thank you, brother. He says, please hit the like and subscribe. Thank you, brother. We also had our good brother Gas, Septic Sauce. He drops a generous $5 pound, I guess I should say, donation. He says, Xbox dead.
Oh, man.
And to combat that, we had our good brother King Webb, who drops a $2 donation. He says, Xbox better. There we go. Fight him back, King Webb. And, of course, a $10 donation from my good brother Dante Moody, who was just earlier on the GCP podcast with, or should I just say the GC podcast with K and Everborn. Dante says Xbox is the best. That's the best at box. Xbox, I think you meant it's the best box. Is that what you meant, Dante?
What kind of box we talking about?
Yeah, they got the nice shape and it's nice and
Hey yo.
Hey, look, that might be a way for them to sell some units.
Hey,
depending on the kind of box we talking. Let me stop. Go ahead.
So you thinking that because of that damn Marvel Rivals pack you just got with the Pimps and Hoes DLC?
Hey man, it's on my mind.
Yeah. So Obsidian is a long story developer, right? Like one of the things I am happy about, just as an aside, is that Microsoft got them in to have done right by them. And that could have been a case where, I mean, because a lot of us were there's a lot of trepidation initially, like, they get them and, shutter them, things of that nature. And we did see that with Tango Gameworks, right? So it was a bit of worry there, but they, to their credit, and I guess to Obsidian's credit too, because they've been a workhorse. Microsoft would have been foolish to do anything to them, right? But they have kept them intact, and I know they were in a bit of financial worry at first at a point. So it's good to have such a story developer land in the spot, and they're still nourished and doing what they love to do, and churning out great games and decent games, or good games at the very least, right? And so I'm happy about that. So yeah, that said, with I guess with Avowed, let's move to the I guess I'll give you guys the setup for this, and I'll ask you the questions. I actually have a delivery I gotta go grab, so I'm gonna do this and then I'm gonna step away. Okay, so the character creation, the game visuals, and the general aesthetics of the world, for you guys, and I guess I'll start with you, Lucius, because we're just going back and forth, and you all can freestyle this until I get back, of course. The character creator, the general visuals of the world. Now I know it's the beautiful splendor of the Unreal Engine 5. You don't need to say
stop
much.
it,
brother. This guy,
stop it.
I'm just acknowledging that it's a beautiful world done by a great engine. That's it.
It's amazing you were able to say that without stuttering like that engine does. But go ahead.
I'm just saying you all have to appreciate the splendor of this world.
I don't. I don't have to appreciate anything. It's a very beautiful world.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it's due to the Unreal Engine.
Oh, what does it do to the art style?
But yeah, it's just due to the artists and the talent on display at Obsidian. That's why it's beautiful.
Well,
as far as Unreal Engine is concerned, I mean, they had to deal with the limitations.
Well,
Unreal Engine.
I mean,
the reason why,
I want you to know this tangent is your fault. We could have just kept it clean. You wanted to make it messy. Now you bring this tangent upon us.
You have done this.
Messy,
we have this game has hub worlds instead of one big world. Why is that?
I mean, because Unreal is just,
because Unreal Engine,
it's got so much it has to do, But listen, that aside, because I know the slander is coming, but I'm going to be the one to fight back here. The artist is only as good as the tool it has, and Unreal Engine.
Oh my God! Why are we doing this? Right now? Why are we
Unreal
doing this
just-
right now?
I'm
We're here to
just-
talk about Avowed, or are we here to
I-
talk about Unreal Engine? What are we doing here right now?
Well, Avowed is
Let's stop
Unreal.
wasting time here.
I just want to give it its due credit and visual.
No,
That's all.
let's move on. Let's speak about the game and not the wrench that somebody used. All right, let's like come on.
That aside, the character creator, what did you feel about the character creator? And I guess you can kind of compare it to recent games, and all of us, of course, played and enjoyed thoroughly Veilguard, which we were going to do a roundtable before too, and time kind of got away. But what did you all feel about the character creator in this game, the visual splendor created by Unreal Engine, and as far as
Can't help himself.
the general art style? What did you feel about this game, personally, you both? And I'll be right back. I'm going to go grab this delivery.
So I think the game. Well, first let's address the fact that the game doesn't look exactly the way that they initially presented it many years ago during that preview. But I love the way that this game looks. Right? I understand why people were just trying, like, if you play the game and you're in the Living Lands, you immediately understand that most likely that tiny snippet that they showed you was probably in the Adiran Empire. Most likely, they were the game was supposed to probably start at the Adiran Empire, and then you're probably going to make your way over to the Living Lands, and they're just like, there's no point in doing that, and then they just stuck to the Living Lands. And if I'm being honest, I love that approach, because the game looks visually diverse depending on where you are in the Living Lands. The lighting looks incredible. The game looks, probably either didn't play the game or they just went to their camp all the time, and you have to realize what's happening at camp. You guys are going to sleep and wake up the next day early in the morning. So if you keep going to camp constantly, you are constantly resetting that day-night cycle, and you're never going to get to nighttime. So just on that. And when it comes to the character creator,
that said, though, like the people who felt a certain way about the change in art direction or the way the look was from the reveal trailer to when they started showing gameplay, like that's still, like, it's understandable, because if you kind of looked at it like, oh, this looks like a super dark, very, like, you know, like a different direction in visually, you know, in the kind of game, and then you kind of get like this more colorful world, especially with the Dream Scourge being what it is and how it even looks on people. It's colorful on people in itself. So it's just it's understandable that some people felt a bit slighted about that.
I completely understand. Like I still think that it's the thing that we got is an incredible game, but I can understand people's misgivings. All right. Now the character creator, I'll say this quickly about it. This character creator is pretty good. It's not the greatest character creator of all time. I think that as many problems as Veilguard had, one of its greatest flexes was how incredible that character creator was.
Probably one of the best character creators ever in Veilguard. Yeah. It's very, very good.
Now, though, in comparison, Avowed, pretty good. Nothing really to scream about or anything. But what I will say is, as a dark-skinned male, I felt that the tones were too on the red side. We had kind of this discussion in the Gaming Circle podcast Discord with a couple people, and it was kind of difficult to explain this to some degree, but everybody has undertones when it comes to their skin color, right? It's not just like whatever, right? And that's why it makes a lot of people look different, is those cool versus warm versus neutral undertones. And I felt that all of the undertones for black characters were much more on the warmer side, and did not really touch on the cool or neutral side, which made it so that way, like, if you tried to make the undertones more cool, you would end up with like a character that looks purple. You see what I'm saying? And that's not what I'm trying to do.
So you say
I will say they did attempt to.
you're saying. purple man you would make.
Yeah, I'm not trying to do.
I will say they did attempt to actually address that with the whole when you go to skin tone, and we see a lot of character creators doing this now. Veilguard also did as well. Just I guess you could say a bit better implementation or execution of it. But you do see the cool, neutral, and like warm kind of presets there for skin tones, in addition to all the various different kind of skin tones that are there. I do agree that, like, I mean, I didn't see an issue with the characters I made in regards to their
You
complexions.
made light skinned characters, of course.
Hey, wait, stop it. I don't make myself in games.
I understand, but the woman
because
that you
I
make is
am a
light-skinned.
light-skinned man. She's not.
Yes,
Look
she
at
is.
the
Yes, she is, bro. I'm looking at her right now.
You send me
I'm
the
looking at
image,
her right
can-
now.
Jen is not a light-skinned woman.
light-skinned.
I'll tell you what,
Bro,
Slomo, send me an image of her on.
Bruh, I'm gonna
I'll-
send it
I'll
to you
put it
because
on
I'm looking
the
at him right
image.
now. You look at this person and tell me that this motherfucker isn't light skinned. Because if
looks kinda-
she isn't, listen, if she isn't
dark
light
one.
skinned, if she isn't light skinned, I am as dark as the fucking night. I am Batman.
She is caramel cocoa complected.
No, she is
not
light skinned. She is light skinned, bro.
From what I
And
can-
there's
from what I
nothing wrong
remember,
with
she
that.
looked
She's a
kinda
beautiful woman. You
caramel
create
a little
a
bit,
badass
caramel.
bitch in your character creators. I'm not saying that she's ugly. I'm simply saying that she's a light skinned woman every time, and there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
But it is what it is.
Listen,
Yeah.
we'll let you guys be the judge. Let's see if we can get an image of this. I want to see this. You shared in the chat on Twitter.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So you see those that I just put inside of the chat. The top one is for Avowed, and the bottom one is for Veilguard. Tell me that these two women aren't light skinned.
First of all, we've already acknowledged that, like, I subconsciously keep making the same female character in every game that I play with.
Yes. Either way, this bitch light skinned.
Oh, wait. Hold on, okay. Let me grab this. Hold on. Now share yours too.
I disagree.
To that chat, so I can highlight that too. Let me.
I disagree. Regardless.
But you see those
it's a
two
good
pictures, right?
So
you see the two pictures that I just shared.
Here is SloMo's character here. Very nice.
My first character.
His first character. The purple hair and everything like that. Now, what did you guys in the chat think?
Tell me
that
she ain't light
It's
skinned.
kind of caramel a little bit. I can see the
Bro,
caramel.
she is light skinned. Get out of here, caramel.
She's not light skinned.
She is light skinned. You guys are on. Listen, y'all on something. Y'all on something.
You got a little I don't know, your eyes a little off. You know, colors are a little different for you.
If you think that this girl ain't light skinned, I need to see Umbra, I need to see who you date if you think that this girl ain't light skinned.
I love our light skinned queens. I'll be honest. I'm more attracted toward that because I'm a dark skinned brother myself, but I got love for our dark skinned queens too. But she looks kind of
bro, you capping right now.
To me.
Y'all are capping.
I gotta borrow some.
But this is not what. Let's not devolve this into colorism in the Black community.
I know, right?
It's too much colorism as it is.
True.
I'm always being assaulted.
Yeah.
I feel. Anyway, no.
Put a poll in the chat. Put a poll in the chat.
It's a good character creator.
Is she light skinned? Yes or no?
Now,
simple.
What were the characters you were going to share though, Lucius? I blame our discussions inside of Discord.
So, like I said, I was trying to make a dark skinned character. I found that I could not make a dark skinned character, so I just made a light skinned character.
So, but okay,
I couldn't make a dark skinned character that I thought looked like a real person.
Okay.
In this game. And that's like literally
my first playthrough. Find a picture of my second character.
My playthrough of every single game that I play, my first playthrough, I always try to make like a dark skinned male. I don't necessarily try to make somebody who looks like me. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. But like I try to make a dark skinned male my first time, and then every other time after that, it's just random. I just choose different people. I role play as different people, that sort of thing. But like my first playthrough is me essentially.
Now this is one of the most beautiful characters I've seen.
This dude is also light skinned.
Now this is one of the most beautiful characters I've ever seen in any game ever. Did you at least say thank you once?
This guy.
What?
He's showing fat Vance.
Oh man.
Anyway.
Just one of
But
the,
look at
SloMo's
second characters
I've ever seen.
look at SloMo's second character. You're telling me that SloMo's second character is also not someone who's light skinned?
Let me see. Okay, hold on. Let me go.
He is lighter than the first character.
And I still don't see the poll.
Where did you share it? I don't see it shared in the.
It's in your Discord chat.
Yeah, it's
text
in
chat.
the voice chat that we're in.
Shared in the inner circle if you could instead on Twitter.
Okay.
Yeah, that'll make it easier because I already got it set to that. But yeah, I don't know. Chat, what do you all think? I mean, I could make a poll, but I don't know if we.
Make a poll. Because y'all are capping. Y'all are trying to gaslight me.
I don't know, man.
Absolutely not.
Both like all these characters that you make are light skinned. There's just nothing wrong with that.
You have lying eyes.
But you're saying that these characters aren't light skinned. Y'all are capping.
You got lying eyes, man.
I do have a character a buddy of mine made. Ozzy, he made his character, and she is flat out gorgeous. I'm like, this is one of the most beautiful characters I've ever seen. Matter of fact, here she is here. This is my boy Ozymandias. This is his character. Now she's light skinned. You see, that's a light skinned chick right there, Lucius. You see what I mean? That's why.
That's a yellow bone.
Yeah, she's light skinned. Yellow bone.
No. Like, listen, if we're gonna get into like hypercolorism, then we can start getting into like whatever.
He does not want to be wrong. Y'all hear this, right?
If you're saying that
definitely light skinned.
This light. I'm not saying that she's not light skinned. But I'm saying if you're saying that
that's light skinned. My
character white,
is not.
That's
a light skinned character.
No.
That's a light skinned character.
No, if you're saying that they need to be essentially white to be light skinned, y'all are capping. This is crazy.
Dante said
that's white skin.
That is not.
This woman is practically white. She just like, what are you talking about?
You out here, man. You out there.
Listen, y'all. This is crazy. If you're saying that it needs to be this bright to be light skinned and the other one that you showed us wasn't, that's crazy.
I think his character was more fair complected, caramels like this the chick here. She's light skinned. Like you say yellow bone, but that's what yellow bone is. And
yeah, yellow bone is light skinned.
Yeah. So like Dante said,
to say that the previous character once again, I'm not saying that this isn't light skinned. I'm saying that if a character needs to get to that point for you to call them light skinned, that's crazy.
I mean,
y'all wildin'. Anyway, let's get past it.
I put my second character in the chat. You don't have to show it on the screen, but that's my second character.
Yeah, so another light skinned character. All of these are attractive characters. I'm not saying that any of them are ugly. I'm not like, all of them beautiful characters, but they're all light skinned, and that's just facts.
Is that the horse cutter right there? It looked like the horse, whatever they call that thing.
That might be the horse cutter.
It looked like it, yeah.
The one that you get from the skeleton that's guarding it.
Yeah,
I didn't really use it. I didn't really use it. And I probably used that armor for the majority of the game. But the horse, that weapon, it always shows because you have it equipped as your secondary. But I pretty much used the shield that was called the Sun and Moon.
Yeah.
And I used the last light of day, which is an awesome name for a weapon.
Yeah.
That, and I used so there's this ongoing quest throughout the game with star medals, and near the end you find a blacksmith that is talented enough to take the star medals and turn them into something, and you get a sword. I forgot the name of the sword though, but I started using that sword once I got near end game.
Yeah, I forgot the name of that as well. Let me look it up because I hate not knowing when we're talking about that type of stuff. But so basically for the character,
it's called the meteor sword. The meteor sword is the one that you
but once you upgrade it, because if you get multiple medals,
something else, it's called something else. It's upgraded.
I'll look it up while you keep hosting.
Okay, so basically I think the general consensus, and I think we all agree, that it's a decent character creator, but it's not to the level of say
Yeah.
say
If I want to make light skinned
Veilguard.
characters, it's great. If I want to make anybody who looks somewhat close to me, it's not that
It's
good.
not that great. Okay.
Oh God.
I'm
Yeah,
just
I
speaking
didn't
my
say-
truth. I'm speaking my truth for the
Umber,
characters that I
you're
create.
just gonna have to let him have it. You know, his
You gotta let
lying
him have
eyes
it.
You
gonna keep
don't make
lying to
dark
him.
skinned characters. You don't know the struggle, my brother. My brother, you do not know the struggle of trying to
this
make
is all.
characters
This
that
is
look
all
like me.
goes back to colorism. This all
No,
goes
it's
back-
it's about representing me inside of the game, and I want to be properly represented. And they did not do a good job for a dark-skinned man like me.
We'll come
And
back.
I'm not saying
We'll
that
come
your
back to
characters
this.
aren't looking great. Your characters look fantastic. They're great and light-skinned. I
My
cannot
character
make
wasn't
me.
light skinned. My character was like a brown, darker brown. But
Okay, show me your character. then.
No.
let me.
No,
I'll find him. I'll find him in
your-
a second.
your-
But my
anyway,
character,
your-
my sword,
Your
by the way, the
character
sword we
is
upgraded
a
called the
red
Umbra.
bone. He gonna say your character is
It's
called
a
is a
red
red
bone.
bone.
Yeah,
Right.
because I want to know, did you make you inside of there, or did
I
you
did
just
not.
make?
I did
Yeah,
not.
exactly.
Yeah,
That's
but
what I'm saying. I'm talking about making people like me and you,
But the
Umbra.
reason why I didn't though is because I didn't. I was on the thing about 45 minutes, and I was like, let me hear him and get to this damn game. So I just like made something and kept going. You know, that's all that was. And to me, the character creator wasn't as intuitive as say Veilguard or anything else. So I was just kind of like, let me just get through it. It's not bad. It's not a bad character creator. I don't want it to sound that way. And you can see.
Oh, I'm not.
like-
I'm not saying that it's bad.
No, I'm
It's
just
once
I'm talking
again.
for myself, not from you.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And I say that because you can see some people who put time into it. Their characters look really good. You look at Epic Treasure, for instance. Our friend Epic Treasure, she did a really great job. She does typically a great job with her character stuff. And you look at my boy Ozzy, his girl. They look great.
But once again, none of them are dark-skinned characters.
That true.
I just want to say the fully upgraded star weapon is called the Andra's offense.
Yeah, Andre. I was trying to say it, but
Yeah.
Lucius was going insane on us about the light skin.
I know, right? You know.
You guys are just capping. You know what I'm saying?
We're not
You guys
capping.
are capping. You know what I'm saying?
My goodness. We're gonna let our good brother have that one. I will say that this is limited, so I do get where you're coming from energy wise as far as that goes. What's up, John? Shout out, by the way, shout out to everybody in the chat. I never did shout everyone out, but thank you all for being here and coming through. I am doing a game giveaway at the end, near the end of the show, I suppose, and I'm just going to do a tally of all those who came through here, and I'll put you in a weapon, a wheel, no weapon. I almost said weapon wheel, a wheel spin. Shout out to BG, wheel spin to give you all a game, and unless you have this game, and then that's my character right there. Right there on the screen, he just showed him. So we'll.
That is not a dark skinned character.
He's not dark skin. No, he's like he's like brown. Yeah, I didn't say he's dark though.
Yeah,
he's like brown, but I put him at the darkest setting. So that is something to your point that they don't do essentially dark too well. You know what I mean? So I do get where you're coming from with it, but he's not light skinned. I would say that.
And the undertones of this guy, red, not cool.
Yeah,
There's no cool or neutral undertones on his face at all.
Mm-hmm. True. And we were going to do a whole thing about that because we talked about this in depth, you guys in the chat, way more than what we're doing here. If you think it's crazy what we're talking about here,
Well, that's because you threw Unreal Engine slander in there, and then there was some other bullshit.
Well,
you didn't throw the tangents that you did in the previous conversation.
I threw praise. Y'all threw slander.
No, you knew exactly what you were doing, brother.
Listen, we're gonna move forward, not backward. Shout out to everybody. What's up, John? So the character creator, I think we can agree, is not the best in the field. It's decent. It's passable. It's you can create some decent looking characters if you want. They might be a bit light skinned, but yeah. And this is the wheel here. I had to show that from my good brother Lucius here, and so I tried to make my character a caviar or a truffle, maybe even a hazelnut, or you can go over here to the neutral undertones with the mahogany.
You made a mocha at best.
Yeah, at best, he came out about a Carab or espresso. So at best, so it is what it is. You know, I did tell our good brother Aaron that I would shout out his complexion, which will be about an ivory or pearl. Anyway, though, yeah, they don't do extremely well with tones, but that to me is the least of the issues. For me, it's also about the body shapes, all those types of things you can do to really manipulate the character to make them your character that they don't do exceptionally better than anybody else. So I wouldn't give it the greatest of marks there. It's definitely decent. It's just not great, if that's fair to say. So visually about the world, did you already speak to the creativity as far as the world, how unique it is in design? Did you all speak to that?
Not from a design, well, it depends. Like a visual design standpoint, we kind of got into how beautiful the world is, but
Okay.
we didn't get into the, the world
Structures
design
and
as
stuff
in
like
like
that.
how, yeah, how everything's structured and because man, the exploration in this game is top tier.
Top
The
tier.
fact that like you are rewarded almost every single time you think to yourself, I wonder if there's something over there. I wonder what happens if I just turn this corner instead of continuing going. I wonder if I go behind that waterfall. Will I be able to find something? Sometimes you trying to go behind a waterfall, you find a treasure chest. Sometimes you find an entire cave filled with enemies.
Wait, so you telling me I should go chasing waterfalls?
Yes. Yes. Exactly.
Oh my gosh.
I had
You
to
so
do
you
it. I had
that's
to
such
do
an
it.
old man joke.
It is really old now, isn't it?
Yeah, man. Are you used to rivers?
Yeah, stick to
Is
the
that
rivers
it?
and the lakes I'm used to. Yeah.
Oh my god, this
Yeah.
guy.
I'm glad somebody got it at least.
No,
I was
no.
I mean, I
sincere.
knew
I think
exactly what you were saying. I'm just not gonna.
You didn't want to
I'm
feed
not
into it,
gonna-
huh? I see.
Yeah,
No, I don't want to be.
I think to kind of get back to the point, the world visually is looks very good. It looks very good, visually, especially if you're playing on the hardware that could actually get the most out of it. And yeah, is this a little PCMR? Sure, it is. Because it is. Damn, get over it. Like on
It is what it
Xbox, I
is.
looked at it on the Xbox. It's a little. I mean, it looks fine. It's a little not as sharp. It's a little blurry. It's a little, it's a little fuzzy. It definitely got that FSR 2.0 level kind of noise
that-
going on the screen,
It's got
right?
that FSR jank going to it. That's what you're saying.
Right, yeah. But on PC with the right hardware, it really pops. It looks very, very good visually. In each biome, each area has a distinct look to it. Like when you're in that area, as you progress through the game, you look back, you go back to a certain area, without actually having to check the map, which area you're in, based upon just the look, the way the environment and everything. You just know exactly where you're at. Oh, this is a desert area. This is Shatter Scarp, whatever it's called, Shatter Cap, something like that.
Shadow
This
Scarp.
is
Yeah.
Shadow Scarp. Yeah, this area is heavily forested. Oh, this is the Emerald Stair. Like you get it as soon as you look at it, because they made sure every area was very distinct in how it looked, and I thought that was well done.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think the only one area that kind of underwhelmed, and it was purposeful though, was Emerald Stair, because it had that more cloudy, look. But it was story reasons for that, so I appreciated that. But I think other than that, and I will say, now this is going to sound very PCMR-ish to the audience. Sorry ahead of time, but it is magnificent to see Unreal in its full kind of unleashed capacity on the proper hardware, because you can see all the structures of the buildings. You see the beautiful dark shadows creeping in from the rock formations, and how great the rocks. And it sounds so stupid to say it this way, but it's the truth, is that the rock formations and everything else like that looks so real and lifelike. Even though this is a very stylized game, it just looks so damn gorgeous. Like I was blown away many times where I had to just stop and soak it all in and take images and stuff like that. Which, excuse me, by the way, they need a photo mode. What the hell? I think it's
I was kind of shocked there wasn't a photo mode in the game.
It should be, right? Like, now for me, I feel like every first party game should have photo mode. Honestly, I think they should strive for that. But because it gives me that thought about PlayStation. PlayStation kind of excels at that, where they'll make sure they have some of those essentials in the game. So I really wish that they typically do at least. I would love for Microsoft to kind of.
If not at launch, they eventually drop a photo mode in like a later patch or something like that a few months later. So yeah.
Why? Lucius.
Don't bring it up. Don't bring it up. That's private chat stuff. That's private chat stuff. Don't bring it up.
I won't say it. You ain't right. That's the rice complexion right there. Anyway, I'll leave that one alone. Anyhow, so let's move forward though, because I think we can all agree the structures of the nice. Unreal does excel it, despite the slander people might want to throw at.
Why are you doing this? Why are you doing this to yourself? You're making your show worse by derailing it with this sort of shit, bro. Like, why are you doing this to yourself? Let's stick to the topics where it needs to stick to, rather than trying to set up bait for people.
I just wanted to highlight that the game is beautiful.
Nah, you just want to be messy.
The combat and companions. And now we're going to do this thing, chat, where we're going to talk about the combat and how the companions that we meet along the way all add to that. And in certain, we've got another question or two that involves the companions as well, because they add an overall experience to the game. For the combat for you guys, how was it for you? Better yet, and a better way to frame it is, compared to other first person type, and you can switch to third person in here. And I actually do want to get your thoughts on that too. How did the combat feel to you compared to other games of the ilk in this type of ilk, and when you could switch to first and third person as well? And did the third person feel decent to you? Did it feel bad? Was it awkward? Et cetera, et cetera. Give me your thoughts on that. And whoever wants to go first, I'll let you guys decide.
Yeah, I'll go first. I think for the kind of games that typically allow you to go from first to third person perspective, I think that you could definitely tell they put more care into it with this one, and especially I guess when they saw some of the feedback from the first time they showed gameplay, and people had a lot of constructive criticism about the way the combat looked. I think they took that to heart and they worked on that over the year it took them before they finally launched the game, and I think you can tell that the work is there, and it is noticeable to me. I do think, and I played this primarily through third person perspective. I would say probably 99% of the game I played through third person perspective. As soon as you boot it up, they put up an accessibility menu and it's there in the options. Do you want to play in third person? You can just check mark that and it'll launch the game. When you finally are able to move your character around, you're in third person. I did try out first person a few times, but it was just, I had already been used to playing third person up until that time and was enjoying myself with that I just didn't work for me, so I never switched back. I do think that in regards to that, there are some animations in third person that look better than others. For example, on my second playthrough, I was typically doing a very melee focused sword and shield kind of build, and that looked amazing in third person. I think the like impact of blows when you would hit enemies was good. I think the running animations with holding those weapons and shields were fine. It was when in my first playthrough when I had a mage build where I was using a grimoire and a wand, where it was weird. It just looked a little off, especially when you're holding a book in one hand and a wand in the other, and when you would like dash away or dodge away from enemies. And it just didn't seem like a very dynamic, fluid motion kind of move. It looked very kind of stiff, and so it had the mileage varies. It was a bit mixed with the animations in third person perspective versus in first person, where you don't have to really deal with that. The animations that you're mostly looking at are just like hand and arm movement kind of stuff. That said, combat, I actually very much enjoyed. I actually thought the combat for we just typically not like this, but I thought the combat for my melee focus build was easier than the combat for the mage, which is usually people have an idea that going a ranged magic route is easier. For myself with the build that I went, and for both builds on both playthroughs, I stuck to the same build the entire time. I never respec. I just stuck to the same style of play for both playthroughs. And when I got to end game, I mean, I was essentially a juggernaut just running over everybody, but I found myself running over everyone sooner with the melee focused shield and sword build than the mage build. And it may be more due to the fact that you need essence, which is MP, your magic points, your mana. You need essence to keep doing your spells, and you can run out of that essence very quickly. As I got later in the game, I started to develop in the skill tree. I forgot what it is. It's like Essence Harvest, I believe it is. Once you max that out, when you kill enemies, they drop like this purple glowing thing that just kind of floats in the air. When you get near that, it gives you mana or essence back that you can use for more spells. And doing that plus getting a particular armor piece that is in the final area that massively improved my essence total amount and would consistently regenerate my essence. It made it so I never even needed to use the essence potions. That I would just do spells and my essence would hit full like after doing like all my spells on cooldown. All my spells are on cooldown, and I'm still got a full bar of essence after that.
Nice.
It was pretty dope. But
let me ask you a bit on that.
Raw damage, I was doing way more with the other build. But the build, just to finish up, the build diversity to kind of go in any which direction, I thought was well done. If you are someone who maybe you like using a bow and arrow in combat, you know, like there is a valuable play style of that as well. So a video of someone who did a build that was like that, and they were being very, very effective in that way. I think they did a good job in regards to build diversity there. And honestly, when it comes to combat in any game, a lot of people to play the game and how they deem it most comfortable is always more important to me. And I think they did a good job at that.
Yeah, for sure. Let me ask you though, in relation to everything you described, would you say though that the combat in here was more intuitive, less intuitive, about equal to other games of its ilk in the first person or third person option? And I guess in a fantasy setting, because first person combat can be difficult when it's swords and shields and stuff like that. But what would you say to that? Like, did it I guess exceed your expectations anyway?
It exceeded my expectations in what the combat would be overall. In comparison to other games, it's kind of hard to do because you got to talk about like, well, which games are we talking about in particular? Are you talking about Skyrim or are you talking about Starfield? Like the way those games implemented things were, especially for Starfield, where it's shooter based, it's a bit different. And I'm not saying they don't have guns in Avowed, they do, but it's like, I mean, a freaking musket. In a pistol, a blunderbuss is very different than an assault rifle and a light machine gun in Starfield. So it's a bit different. I would just say that, like, in not trying to directly compare it to other games, that it's serviceable for both perspectives, and I can speak more towards the third person than the first person, of course, but with third person, I enjoyed it. And I know that most people who have tried the game out in third person enjoyed it. There are some who didn't like it, and they are those that, and I'm not trying to dismiss their opinions, because their opinions are just as valid as mine, but the criticisms I've seen from people in regards to the gameplay in third person, it goes back to what I said about animations. and movements and the stiffness. And these are people who put a higher premium or priority on that because that's, in their eyes, is what is determined as quality. And you could say, you could disagree with that or not, but quality is in the eye of the beholder. So if someone cares less about RPG elements or RPG systems, but care more about animations and how the combat looks in general and the flow and overall, then that is what it is. One thing I did want to say is something that I thought that they did that was a bit odd, and I haven't really seen it implemented and executed in this way in other games, is that having the jump and dodge or dash on the same button is both on the A button. And that was a bit odd because typically what happens is in any game that has a dodge roll and a jump, they're on two separate buttons. Or if you have a lot of games either have one or the other. They just have a jump or they just have a dodge. And if you just have a dodge, you more than likely don't have the ability to jump. If you somehow incorporate both, there have been times where the ability to dodge with jumping is like something you can do in the air, like in Cyberpunk, but it's an ability that's unlocked. And it again also uses a separate button, or it's a power that's on a separate button. Essentially, it all gets down to these are two different buttons. And the reason, my one real criticism with the combat is that and I see it so often in third-person perspective. It's like moving it all around the world in the environments. I never really had much of a problem. In combat, oftentimes I am trying to dodge away from an attack, and instead I'm jumping.
I've had it happen a few times.
And that became a little bit of a frustration. I got over it, but they would have been better served finding a way to put those on two separate buttons.
Well, last question I'll ask before we go to Lucius is that, do you think it hindered you though in any way, really? Because it happened to me. It did a few times.
Yeah. There was one time in particular, I think I recorded it, where 3 times in a row I'm trying to dash away. Like I got no essence.
Right.
I got no barely got any stamina. I'm trying to dash away. Both I can talk about this. My dumb as bricks companions are both down, and I'm like, help me. I'm trying to dodge away so I can take a potion, recover, and then reset. Right. And I'm jumping every single time. And I'm literally doing everything. You hit a direction and you hit A, I should be dodging. Instead, I'm jumping. And I'm just like, bro, can we stop that? Why'd you put these both on the same?
It seems like this is a panic input more than anything else.
It feels
no, it's not.
It feels
not a
like
panic input. This is even if it was a panic input, why'd you put both on the same button? You make it difficult for people to be able to determine I wasn't panicking. You were projecting something that you don't know without any kind of actual evidence of such. So don't be defensive. What I'm saying is that you create a scenario, even if someone was panicking, you did not allow them to be able to get out of the scenario in the way they wanted to, due to the fact of how you set up the controls. And this is likely why literally no other developer has developed it like that before. In addition to, and just say this real quick, and then Lucius can go. The companion AI ain't the best. They could be a lot better. But I largely ignored them once I realized they weren't going to be much of a help anyway. Okay. So yeah. Once I got into later into the game, I didn't really need them in combat. Mm-hmm. And so I really just kind of, the people I had in the party were the people I found less annoying. And the people I thought were, like, due to companion quests, were more necessary for the area and time period. Because there's some quests, you need a particular person in your party in order to kind of continue on. Sure. And so I was just like, all right, let me just go ahead and make sure Maris is in the party. Even though, like, he provides, as far as combat goes, not that much. And and as a companion, and I kind of find him generally annoying in general, but I'll bring him in here. Yeah. I'm done.
That's well said. Well said. Lucius, what about you, my brother? And did the fact of the button being a jump and a dash, did it bother you at all? I guess
No, not even once.
Yeah. Do you think it's a skill issue? I don't know.
I mean, that's what I said, and then people started yelling at me, and I was like, okay, all right.
Okay, skill. Okay, so we doing this. We doing this.
I'm just
skill
messing.
issue.
You're the person who did this, Umbra. I was not even going to mention any of this. I haven't even said my opinion yet.
Yeah, let's let him
and
get
you're
his
setting
opinion.
up. You're setting up landmines.
Yeah. Gosh, a skill issue.
I know how you all are.
In a game,
Look, I had to
in a
do
game
it.
with this kind
You're
of combat, we're
derailing
talking
your
about
own
skill
podcast,
issues.
Umbra. You're derailing your own. So let me speak about my experience. All right.
Yes, please.
90% of my gameplay was first person. I enjoy first person games. There are plenty of third person games in my life. I don't need more of them. So I like the first person experience. I find that it's more immersive. I played the entire, like most of the game in that way. I would say the way that I play RPGs is that I really like focusing on the type of person that I want to become. And so at the very beginning, even before I even played this game, I'm like, I am going to be a wizard with a gun. Like that is going to be my mentality, wizard with a gun. So because
a wizzy
of that,
with a blicky.
yeah, exactly, wizzy with a blicky. So
did you do grimoire and pistol?
So no, what I did is that my first loadout was grimoire and wand, and my second loadout was dual pistols. And I mostly used the dual pistols to be able to hit someone and get a bunch of stagger, so that way I could switch to my wand and then do like that combo damage or whatever. And I could still do the combo damage with my gun, but the reason why I had the guns was they were really good at staggering people. Especially bosses. So very much enjoyed the combat. I like to make like I said, I like to focus on the type of player that I want to be. So my where I put my stats were intelligence, which dramatically increased the amount of elemental resistance that I had, and also dramatically increased the amount of essence that I had. Perception, which increased the distance that I could hit things, and also my critical hit rate chance. And then the other thing that I put a lot of points into was dexterity, because dexterity is how fast you do specific actions and how fast you get like your things come back in charge, right? So I put those 3 points into I put no points into Constitution. I was very squishy. I put no points into Might, because if I did the calculation, the amount of percentage that I would get per point matters less than the amount of essence that I would need to be able to constantly spam high level spells. So I just did it so that way I found the best grimoires that I could at every single time and would do the biggest spells that I possibly could, doing big damage, and making sure that I had so much essence, and my dexterity was so high that I was casting spells very, very quickly, like high level spells that typically take a long time to cast. I was casting them almost instantly by the end of the game. And because of the of course the dexterity again, it made it so that way I recovered faster so I could just continue to spam over and over and over again. And by the time that I was done with the 4 spells that I had on my thing, most likely one of the first spell that I cast was back in the rotation again, and I can cast it. So I was just doing insane damage at some point. Regarding the companions, I felt frustrated at the companions at first, but then I realized that a lot of the times that the companions were dying was because I was not properly utilizing them throughout the fight, right? So sometimes you walk into a fight and you're not really prepared for it, or sometimes you walk into a fight and you're not taking into consideration the enemies that are in front of you. Those were the times that like my companions died. But the every single time that like I walked into a fight and was like, I see the healer, let's fuck up the healer right now, or I see this guy, somebody I needs to like trap him so he's not able to move because he's going to be doing the big damage. Like every single time that I understood what I needed to do as a player in a fight, I was then able to tell my companions what to do, and that led to fights being much more smoother. Every time that I felt that I did not have a good understanding of the fight, or that the fight went out of my hands, that's when my companions started dying.
Sounds like, let me stop.
You don't do that. Don't do that. Yeah. But it was one of those things that like I was frustrated.
Do I need to put somebody in their place right now?
No.
I think I might. I know. Because you tried it one more time. And
this Umbra doing it.
No. I'm going. That's what I'm going on.
Okay.
Mr. Umbra, who just barely beat the game today, and after I beat the game twice. Mr. Umbra, who don't pay attention to nothing, and not even when people go ahead. No. Who when people give you advice and you don't even listen, Mr. Umbra.
That was Lucius' fault.
By the way, no, that's your fault for not listening, and you ain't listening right now. When I'm telling you right now, I had zero issues with this game. This is one of the easier games to play. Period. I give you one scenario where
I'm just saying I never had my people go down like that. That's all I was saying. Me personally, I utilize them really well.
First of all, I did not say I had my companions go down. See, this is your lack of listening problems again. I said they were worthless. Is what I said. That doesn't mean they went down. That means that they weren't doing enough damage for me to even really consider keeping them my focus on them. I basically just focused on all the enemies myself.
It felt
what the companions were doing was kind of irrelevant to me.
It did sound like you led them straight into
they don't do that much damage. The companions don't do that much damage. No, you shouldn't rely on them to really kill people. You should rely on, the way that I saw it is that you should rely on them for the special abilities like they have. Like Marius being able to trap people and stop them from being able to move, or Kai's ability to like activate his shield and he gets aggro.
He aggroes,
right?
Yes.
Or like there are different, all of them have their ways of fighting, and if you don't take into consideration the companions, that's when I found, like when you didn't take them into consideration and their strengths and weaknesses, that's when I found that I was in a bad situation, because then they would just fucking die, and then all the enemies would pay attention.
That was going to my point.
I didn't take them into consideration, and they still didn't die, and I still bodied all the content. So
I
understand what you're saying, but that wasn't an issue for me whatsoever. I just found them irrelevant in combat because I didn't really need them in combat. And the only time I think once I got Giada, I tried to keep her in my party for the most part, because I unlocked that ability where I would use her as like a big heal if I got low. I would have that on my on a directional pad as one of my quick actions, just to hit her heal every now and then. And I didn't always need it in a fight, but when I did need it, it was useful. But that was mostly on my second playthrough with my
so they weren't all the way
shield and
useless.
sword character.
So like I said, there's a reason why I relied on my companions, is because I put 0 points into Constitution. I was very squishy. Like I was a glass cannon. That is how I like to play my mages. And so because of that, like I need someone to distract the enemy so that way I can blow everybody the fuck up. So like so because of that, I had to rely on what my companion's skills were to properly take advantage of them, and then use those in combination with my own abilities, because I'm going to be doing the damage where everybody's going to die. But I need to make sure that people aren't moving around and I miss my giant AoE attack or all of these other things. Like these things need to come into coordination. And sure, maybe I could have put a couple points into Constitution, but that would have meant less damage. That would have meant less. That would have been less essence for me to be able to just constantly crank this stuff
your
out.
attributes are limited. You get far less attribute points than you do skill points. So
Yes.
yeah.
So
Yeah,
the way that I looked at it,
judicious in how you build it, which is fine. Like, everyone's build is going to be different in how which you prioritize and what you want to make
and the different
important
different skills and the different items make almost all builds viable. Sometimes it may take you a while to be able to find the perfect combination of skills and items and everything else that you need to be able to make that very particular build possible. But I think everything's possible. My third playthrough, I am going to play as a monk, which means
you just go hand to hand.
Hand to hand damage. That's possible. You could just give people hands and feet in this goddamn game, and I'm gonna do that for my third playthrough, and it's probably gonna be pretty hard because I have to make sure that my health is really high, because there's only so much that I'm gonna be able to increase my punching, and then I think there's one item that dramatically increases your punch skills or your punch damage, but it's like halfway through the game or something like that.
I picked that up too. Also, too, of course, there is a skill.
In the skill tree. Once you hit level 10, I think you unlock the actual skills that start to increase hand-to-hand combat damage as well. Yeah. So yeah, once you hit that, like a lot.
And there's another item that is like based off of how much damage that you do, you get back health. That one is going to be very important because you're going to start doing a lot of damage with your fists, but there's going to be so many enemies around you picking at you that you're going to lose a lot of health. So you're like, I can't wait until I beat a bunch of games this year so I can go back to Avowed and make my monk build, because I know it's possible. It's going to be hard, but I want to make it see how fun it can be.
I don't think it'll be hard. You just gotta make sure that you're hyper focused on skills and attributes that only benefit what you're trying to do.
Yeah, it's like I'm pretty much gonna have to lean into might and constitution for that build.
Yes, my second playthrough is like the attributes I used are almost the exact opposite in terms of importance compared to the attributes I used in the first. For my mage, I may have put like 1 point into Constitution one time, but for the most part, I was in trying to increase with my mage my essence reservoir, and also doing dexterity to make sure my spells came off faster. A lot of the same things that you had mentioned. Yeah. And in addition to
dexterity,
having,
I think is the best attribute for literally anybody, because like it just means that you swing weapons faster, you do your abilities faster, your abilities recharge faster. Like dexterity is such a good attribute.
You gotta have dexterity.
Yeah.
And every RPG I've ever played, really, it always comes in handy.
Yeah, but in my second playthrough, I think my highest attribute was might, because, oh man, like the flat damage that you get for each point you put into it, near the end, I'm just wailing on enemies and I'm just chopping their health down so quickly.
Yeah,
like
the might is insane. You do so much damage.
Yeah, and I was killing everyone much faster, surprisingly. I mean, to a degree, because like the way my mage build was set up, I was using that electric ricochet ability spell where you would cast this electric spell and it would hit enemies or bounce off walls, hit enemies again. So even if you had like a group of enemies, it would be a good AoE attack, as well as just if someone's close to a wall or in a small hallway, it's bouncing off of walls and hitting that same enemy again over and over again. I was killing stuff pretty quickly with that. But when it comes to just, I got this spin attack with unlocked once you get to level 20. Unlock that and level that up, and anytime I use that, like everything died around me. Just using the basic, attacks, going in on enemies, just watching the health just go so quickly. And the way I think is also partially due to the fact that like I was on my second playthrough also more familiar and less unsure of what to use. and how to use it. I basically had min-maxed my build so that like this was everything I had only served to help the overall, basically the basic usage of me just destroying things in 2 or 3 hits. So even when I got to the final boss, I ain't gonna say the final boss's name, but I found a boss. I almost felt bad for how I treated that person because that was just like it was like it's like don't get up,
loop. Right.
don't get stop. Stop. Get all right. You know you gonna get this work again.
Switch gods because they're not helping you. Yeah,
exactly.
I feel you. I felt the same. I was like, yeah, I'm knocking your ass out. Yeah, but let me ask you now. You guys both. So Lucius, I heard yours on that. What do you and you? I think you also explained enough on the companions. If you all had to say, improvement wise, what would you like them to have done for the sequel? Let's say for the sequel. How about that? Let's look at the future. What would you have them do for combat here, as well as the use of companions that would really make this game stand out better than what it was, I guess, or what it was presented?
I always say this whenever there are companions, when you have like parties and RPGs. I always say this of having like combinations, this always takes me back to Chrono Trigger back in the day, like my favorite RPG of all time. But Chrono Trigger would have these skills that you would develop, and it would come with unlocking certain abilities and working with certain party members in your party. But if you had, say, and I'll take some of the party members who are in this one. Let's say Giada, for example. Matter of fact, no. What is that little pink thing's name?
Yatsley.
Yeah, Yatsley. So let's say her, because she's a wizard, and she does a lot of offensive magic spells. If you would have, say, like an ability where she hits an enemy with a particular spell, and you do a special ability that you already have and already unlocked, and then it turns into an AoE attack. Or that spin move that I mentioned earlier, she could actually hit you with electricity, and then now you're sending waves of electricity out, and you're not just spinning and hitting enemies, but you're also hitting enemies that aren't close enough for your melee weapon to connect with, but you're still doing damage. Like those kind of combinations, I think, would be a good addition to combat in a sequel, and I think it would also kind of lend people to thinking more towards who they want to bring with them, and when they go into quests and things based upon what they can provide and how you've developed those abilities over time.
Okay, yeah, good thoughts. What about you, Lucius?
I think the biggest thing that I would add in for a sequel, and this actually has nothing to do with the combat. Actually, do you want me to be combat specific?
Well, what's it pertaining to? Because I guess we could cover it depending on where we're about to move to.
It's about conversations. So when you're speaking to either a quest giver, somebody inside of the world, whatever, there are a bunch of different options to choose from. And I think that Obsidian needs to be better at indicating what choices are simply questions to be able to get clarification and more information, and what things are going to move the conversation along. Because it's like sometimes it's obvious. It's like
do you have an example from a different game that you could use to kind of like
Mass Effect?
So
for
like
example. Mass Effect.
Okay.
In Mass Effect, you would know.
Shut up.
Hey, if I'm talking to somebody and there's a question mark, most likely that thing is just me getting more information. It's more story, whatever. That is not me making a decision, right?
Might be a delivery.
But a lot of the times in Avowed, you'll have something that has a question mark on it, and you'll think to yourself, okay, this is a question. This is me getting clarification about the situation. And no, it just moves on to the next part of the topic, which that typically doesn't matter, like from a gameplay standpoint. There are, however, a few side stories in Avowed where if you collect additional information, you're actually able to get a different outcome where less people die.
Oh, imagine that! Wow.
And because of that,
I wonder if there were people who did that and still didn't do the things and pay attention and ended up getting people killed.
Couldn't be me.
But like there are a couple side stories like that, and where it's just like if you have more information, you can talk to people and make them more reasonable because you have information to present to them. But if you don't have that information, then shit goes sideways, right? So if you're going, I would say if you want to give your player more agency as to the times that when they do make a decision that it's important, make it clear when they are making a decision versus when they're just simply asking a question and engaging inside of that world.
I agree with that 100% because a few times it was like this. It felt like it was important, but I wasn't sure. And then it was like later on, it was like, oh, well, you did this. And it's like, okay. It gave me no thought that this was going to lead to something else, and I agree with that, especially that major moment, because if you're not paying attention to that and you don't come across the person you told me about, you kind of asked out, and
in regards to that part, I do agree because the way that information is presented to you, it's presented to you as this is no big deal. And it's not presented to you as you need to handle this right now. Like you need to make sure before you do finish the main story mission
In
that
the second
this
area.
is done. Yeah, because essentially you would get this information and they're never, if you go to your quest line, it's never presented to you as something you need to do. You can actually finish the quest where you get that information, and then it
doesn't even add it anywhere. It doesn't add it anywhere.
so the only way that you know that you need to handle this is simply because you were paying attention to the dialogue. And they didn't even tell you exactly where it is. They gave you basically some vague instructions on where to find it.
Yep.
And there are actually multiple locations in that biome that could be considered a good candidate for where this is. And you have to go to each one before you find the right one. Yep. It was, I agree. It was that aspect of it, despite the fact that it is good that it did provide your choices do matter kind of aspect to things that we like to see in RPGs and not the illusion of choice. But the implementation, the execution of it could have used some work. I agree with that.
Yeah, for sure. And I guess to move us ahead, because we have been in here about an hour and 40, almost 2 hours now. So to move us ahead, I'll say this.
Can we finally start getting into spoilers? Can I actually start talking about
that's what
more deeper parts of this game?
So the story and companions, I'll read this quick synopsis of the story, and then we'll kind of, I guess, delve into the spoilers of that. And I want to get you guys' thoughts on what you felt about it. Did it resonate with you? Could it been better, et cetera, et cetera. So just to give you guys a synopsis, we play as an envoy from a deer empire. We're sent to the living lands to investigate this mysterious plague known as the Dream Scourge. And you're going to come across that many times throughout this adventure, if you will. The living lands is a diverse region with various environments, including the lush forests, the arid deserts, sprawling caves. The Dream Scourge is a plague that affects people, animals, and even the land itself, causing confusion, disorientation, hallucinations, and eventually turning victims into violent dream thralls. They also, do some slam poetry. If you have been paying attention, they'll start rapping at you if you pay attention.
Yeah,
So, you guys, let me ask. Bars and Don DeMarco, but so.
Oh my God.
For you guys, and Lucius, I'll start with you on this one. What was your overall take of the story and the narrative, and did you want more? Like, did it leave you kind of, it was okay, or no, it was good?
No. So let me say this. because I have knowledge of Pillars of Eternity 1 and 2, I know the stories behind it, I know the world. This game was incredible. This game, the story was incredible. Because you may not understand the significance of Sapadal and like a essential like natural born god inside of the world of Aora, but that is incredibly significant. And uh the reason why Wodaka went after Sapadal, the implications between that, the lack of control over that, the Adirian Empire falling into strife after what happened in Pillars of Eternity 1 and 2, it all connects to make an incredible story that, if you are properly informed about all the things that are happening in the background, everything that's happening makes sense. It makes sense as to why a lot of the things that have started to affect the rest of the world haven't necessarily started to affect the living lands yet. The game is so good, and I there's a part of me that questions how well people will receive this story if they don't have the advanced knowledge like I do. Uh, but just for me personally, as someone who is very deep into the lore, I know very much about everything that they were trying to tell me. Uh, it was not very difficult for me to be able to parse the important parts of the story, how important uh, the the envoy was to the living lands, how important Zapadal is to the entire story, the reason why you would want to either free Sapadal or kill Sapadal. Like there are reasons to do both, but without that background knowledge to truly understand why the world is reacting to the way that it is to the living lands, I don't know if you can truly make an informed decision.
Well, let me ask then, to that point you're making, it might be more heavy implicated, but if you know and understand a bit of the lore, do you think they express that well enough in this game though?
Uh, Once again, I don't know, because it's very hard for me to remove all of that knowledge outside of my head when they are presenting me with more things. So like
Fair.
when they're presenting me with the story, I have all of this knowledge about everything else, that it all makes sense to me. It's all clicking, it's all whatever. And obviously they have tools in the game to be able to help inform people, like, this is what we mean about the living lands. This is what the Adarian Empire is. This is what an envoy is. Like, they try to define as much as they possibly can inside of the game. So if you're ever confused, you could just press X, look at all the conversations. You can see what people previously said. You can look at that glossary to be able to know what those things mean. So they present all the information there. I just don't know if the way that they present it is very easy for somebody who doesn't know as much as I do.
That's what I'm thinking. Let me ask SloMo, to you, since we didn't know about the lore, in your view, because I got my thoughts on it, and I'll answer after it. For you, did you feel that they conveyed the story well enough? Was it a good story to you, first and foremost? And did they explain it well enough that if you didn't understand the lore, as Lucius does already, that it felt as important and all these things kind of coalesce to you the same way?
It's an okay story. I think, and the reason why I say it's an okay story, I think the structure of the plot is where it's lacking. It's not necessarily in the writing of the dialogue, which I do think when it comes to the voice, aka Sapadal, that was probably the weakest part of the dialogue. But it was an okay story, but I think a strength to it in their writing was how they described things. Like, I never felt confused about what was happening at all in the game. And to the point that I think they laid things out a little too easily. I wish they could have added a bit of intrigue to kind of get me to decide to, while I was still playing the game, to look up some lore or to do some research on some things that they mentioned. Everything that they had said made sense, and when they would explain things that occurred previously in other games, I mean, they didn't go into massive details and telling you every single person that was present when the major event happened, but they explained it in a way that I understood what happened before, why it happened, and how it relates to what we're talking about in that moment. I forgot. I lost my train of thought on what I was about to say. Damn.
I would say let's
I got
have this
it. So
conversation
let's.
again, SloMo, after you've watched that video and after you get even more information. And how do you feel about it after that?
Okay, that's fine. I would say I figured out what the game. I guess the subvert, the shocker moment. I figured that out like 3-4 hours of the game.
He figured it out.
What was the shocker moment? I'm confused.
Yes,
that Sapodal was behind the Dream Scourge.
Oh yeah. I figured that out real quick.
I figured it out once we got to that
almost
damn
immediately, and I was just like, okay.
And then Sapodal is essentially a child.
Yeah.
Yes, it's a child god that doesn't understand how its actions affect things, but it's also not completely innocent. Because when you address Sapodal, when you find out all the other stuff, the horrible things it did in the past to the godless or whatever, I forgot the other name that they were really called. They call it the godless because people. Yeah. What Sapodal did to them, what Sapodal is doing to people, what it did to Giada. When you find out these things and you bring this up to Sapodal, they got excuses. They excuse for everything. And part of the annoyance for me was the way Sapodal speaks. Like every time you go to sleep, a tree blows. Fire burns. Water.
That's a young god that doesn't know how to talk to humans yet.
And it's like, yo, shut up. Yo,
I'm
trying to
the
sleep.
earth screams. We're in pain. I was like, would you shut up?
Yeah, yo, every time they gave me the choice to tell Sapodal to shut up, I took it. I was just like, because that's how I feel. Shut up, please. Like in the middle of a conversation, you talking to somebody, Sapodal, oh my God, Wodika's here. So, voice, stop being a voice for a moment. Stop talking. It's so annoying. And you and Everborn
Saga really hate Sapodal. It's crazy.
Yo, early on when people was like, "How you gonna handle the situation?" Oh, she dead. I'm killing it.
You just killed the baby. You just killed the baby.
Oh no, you're not a baby when you're old. You're 5 gazillion years old. I mean, you're old. You're not as old as the other gods, but you're older than everyone else that's talking right now, and you are willingly not taking. You're not taking any responsibility for your actions. All right. Well, look. All right. You got to go.
I think something else, maybe like 500, maybe.
I don't know. But
in comparison to the other gods that are like at least 2,000,
to give a little,
not like 4,000 years. So
to give a little insight on Sapodal. Sapodal, by the way, turns out to be
was only 500 years old, and the godless were completely wiped out to the grid. Wodika had a large part in that. If you look at some of the codexes,
Wodika was the one who wiped out most of them. They wiped out all of the Akita. Don't blame Sapodal for that.
But just to throw
I would blame Sapodal for wiping out whole villages for knocking over a statue. I would definitely blame Sapodal for that.
They cut down a tree.
Yeah, you're not innocent. You're kind of violent, and you don't take any responsibility for what you do. But you're like, let me free. No.
The question is, do you want to be a guiding parent to this god?
Absolutely not.
I chose you, and it is a great idea. Nope. The power that you get from it is pretty incredible.
Listen, I mean, let me just say this really quick. So, for those who don't know, Sapodal, just because we are in the spoiler discussion part of it, Sapodal turns out to be the actual god of the living lands. That's the revelation in this story here. She or it is a younger god compared to the other gods, so they act very childlike, and to that credit, they nag you.
And was also completely separated from when the other gods became aware of Sapodal's existence.
They immediately attacked her.
A unanimous decision chose to get her up out of here. Separated the Audra, which is how they are all connected, right? Separated the Living Lands Audra from the rest of the world, so that she couldn't influence them in any way. And Wodaka went on a campaign of carnage to get rid of her and anything that had to do with.
The only thing that the other gods decided was like, hey, this new god is just a bit too chaotic. We need to cut off the Audra. And then Wodaka was like, yes, cut off the Audra. And as soon as that shit happened, she was like, bet. now I can wipe out this entire fucking thing. But it was Wodaka who decided to like actually attack Sapadal.
Yeah, and
in the way that like we see it.
And the thing about Wodaka, for those that don't know, Wodaka is the god of is she the god of order? She's the
she's the
queen,
the order, justice, and law.
So
the main antagonist, Lodwin, on the story, who you can tell from the very beginning, you gonna be the final boss. Like as soon as you meet her, you're just like, all right, so it's gonna be you and me, at the end of this. Like immediately, it was so obvious. But she is the you could say an envoy of Wodaka, where she's following out Wodaka's will in the Living Lands. And whether you agree with her methods or not, which I guess some people will say this is the part of the illusion of choice, where because you could basically be like, yo, Wodaka, you're right. And Wodaka could be like, Envoy, every time she sees you, Envoy, I love you. You're great. You make all the best decisions. And then in the end, she'll be like, yeah, so thanks for getting rid of Sapadal, but you were a god like a Sapadal, so I do have to body you too. Sorry. I mean, it is what it is, but I love you. I love you.
You can actually, no. You can actually choose. Okay, so here's a couple things. One, you can choose to side with her, and then everybody on your team leaves you for siding with Lodwin.
It's an achievement, in fact.
Mm-hmm. And then you fight with her. And then another thing that you can do is if your stats, like this is where attributes come in. If you min-maxed your attributes properly, at the end of the game, you can get Lodwin to do whatever the fuck you want her to do. Straight up Mass Effect 1 vibes. I got her to fucking kill herself in my first playthrough. I didn't have to fucking fight her at all. Like my intelligence was so high that I was able to convince her that her faith was not strong enough, and she is literally her existence is built off of her faith of Wodaka. So I was able to.
That's how she keeps coming back after you kill her.
After you kill her,
it's
so
funny,
I was just kind of like,
you say that because
I'm going to get inside of your fucking mind. I'm going to get inside of your fucking mind and make it so that way you slowly but surely lose faith during our conversation, and you fucking disintegrate right in front of me.
It's interesting you say that because there is a moment in the story where I believe it's Giada. Giada speaks on her faith and how she keeps coming back because of that. And they're kind of leading.
If you go to camp and speak to her about it, she gives you more details about it.
Right.
And then that allows you to be able to have the conversations with her, which you can like literally convince her to do whatever.
You also had to have a certain stat to be able to even unlock that conversation. When my first playthrough through, I did not have that stat, so I had to basically beat her to the point where she lost faith, and then she died. So essentially, it's still the same outcome, whether you fought her or not. You fight, you convince her that her faith is that she just, she loses faith and she dies, or you beat her so badly, and it's literally 3 times in a row, maybe 2, 3. I think it was 3. 2 or 3 times. Yeah, you 3, and then she's just like, "Why am I still losing, Wodaka? Wodaka, what is happening here?" The last time she only gets like half health back. And that's when you know she ain't got the fire no more. She ain't got the juice. And you body her again.
The reason why, and then this is why I find so interesting, is because the reason why Wodaka isn't able to speak to her really gets into what happened in Pillars of Eternity 1 and 2. The gods have lost their direct impact towards the world like they previously did. They can't directly impacted because of things that happened in Pillars of Eternity 1 and 2. And because of that, you're seeing less direct impact from the gods. The people's prayers are going unanswered. And a lot of things have happened since Pillars 1 and 2 that's just changing the world fundamentally. So like, I will send you guys that lore video again. Hopefully you watch it. And that'll open up your understanding of like, why is it that Wodoka feels so threatened? Why is it that the world is in the situation that it's in? Because that stuff, I don't think the game covered it too much.
Okay. Yeah. So
that particular aspect was not covered in the game at all, I don't think, because remember that godlike that's in the tunnel where he was killing people and then feeding their souls to a statue. Can't remember his name, but he's like golden looking. He's goldeny. He talked about how he used to talk to his godlike, but he can't
speak to him anymore.
He can't speak to him anymore. He didn't understand why. So of course, he wouldn't know why because, he doesn't have that perspective. And you don't know why because you never got a chance to even talk to yours until you even got to the Living Lands.
But something happens in Pillars of Eternity 2 that causes a lot of that shit to happen. And a lot of it was his god's fault. So it's this very interesting thing. Also, I wanted to mention, because we spoke about this a while ago, but then we started talking about other stuff. The concept of the wheel and souls being real, quantifiable things that can be proven by science, and how at the very beginning of the game, you have to figure out why, if you're gonna go crazy because spoiler alert, you get killed, and then you get brought back by Sapadal. And the doctor that sees you is like, okay, you need to go do two things. One, you need to go report to the mayor or whatever. And then the second thing is that you need to go talk to a watcher, somebody who can engage with your soul to see what's going on, right? And watchers are very, very rare. There's a real watcher outside of the city. And you have to it's kind of in a hard area. It's near the godlike ruins at the top right of the map in the first area. Yeah. And then there's a second watcher who's obviously a fake. This person has no idea what the fuck they're talking about. Yeah. But if you don't pay attention to the story and listen to the fact that one of them is actually a scammer, you could just go to that secondary watcher and then never actually engage with the first watcher that you're supposed to. But the one that you're actually supposed to engage with, the one that actually can look at your soul, outside of her house, there's a guy who's going through an existential crisis. And the reason why he's going through that existential crisis is the watcher looked at his soul and saw who he was in a previous life. Right. And who he was in a previous life was a warmonger, somebody who killed and raped and did all this terrible shit
basically
to a lot of people.
Yeah.
Yeah. And now he's just a farmer. He has a family, he takes care of people, and he's trying to square the circle of the sort of person that he is now in comparison to the sort of person that his soul used to be. And he's trying to figure out, is that someone who I still am? It's so good. And if you didn't pay attention to the story, you'd accidentally go to the wrong place, and then it would just remove it from your thing, and you wouldn't actually get to engage with that guy outside of the place, much less the watcher who gets to see the interesting things about your soul, and you get to have that conversation about them. I really like the lore of Pillars of Eternity, and I think Avowed did a very, very good job at adding on top of that, adding to the complexity of being a human being inside of that world, or just somebody who is alive inside of that world, because there's a lot of different races. Right. And knowing that, the Kith, the knowledgeable species. Yeah. So being a Kith and knowing, hey, I'm going to die someday and I'm going to become something else. And 99.9% of people don't know who they used to be in the past. The only way for you to be able to know is either to speak to a watcher, who will like help you see some of your past lives, or B, you go through an awakening. And an awakening is when the soul that you have went through something incredibly traumatic in a past life, and because of that hasn't really been able to move on. And when that happens, you, as someone who has been awakened, have a high chance of going insane because you're going to have constant nightmares about the experience that that soul previously had, and the only way to get rid of it is to go on like a essentially like a spirit guide search to try to find out what happened in that previous life and how you can essentially put your soul to rest. It's very interesting.
So I do appreciate how you can look deeper into the elements of that, and I mean, you do have the extra knowledge of the the world of Eeyore and such because of Pillars of Eternity. But I would say, and I will venture to say, just because of what I've played here, and I didn't play Pillars of Eternity, I would say, just based off what I got here, the lore isn't as to me as fascinating, simply because a lot of it is what you have to read. So if you take the time to read through a lot of that, you might gain more. But I'm big on
Umbra,
showing versus telling.
Are you one? Yeah, I get that,
Yeah.
and but are you one that typically doesn't care for lore in games?
No,
Because most lore,
actually,
the way it's set up. Say again.
No, I actually really appreciate good lore.
Okay, because I would say because most lore in games is something that you have to read. Is it in the codex, or it's in a letter, things that people leave around. You'll find it as you explore things like that.
Mm-hmm.
I think a good distinction to discuss real quick is that there's a difference between story and lore. Like lore is a lot of it's like enhancing of the entire world, and it can enhance a story, but the story is what's happening in the moment, is what's happening right now. Lore is all the background stuff that did happen, or is explanation of the things that you see in the world, or why the flora and fauna has a particular look, those kind of things. Exploring the history of a particular castle that you may come across. It's something that I brought up years ago when I did a review of Elden Ring. And Elden Ring is an amazing game, and most people recognize it as such. But when it comes to the story, it's pretty polarizing, because there are people who feel like it's not very good, and then there are people who feel
incredible lore.
Yeah, and that's the thing.
So that's the difference. There is a difference between story and lore, and the way the story in Elden Ring is told is not told very well.
Right.
And because you have a very hard time even understanding what the heck is going on.
Yeah.
And it seems like From Software enjoys confusing you in what is even happening, even in the moment. But when you look at the lore, which was actually written by George R.R. Martin, is who did Game of Thrones. The lore is fantastic, and it's
But
yeah.
To your point, though, let me just say this. To that point, this is the problem I had with this right here, is that I'm bigger on showing and not telling, and I think some games excel with how they present their lore and bring you into their world. I'll give you an example: Mass Effect series, right? Excellent lore, but they also tie that lore into what you're seeing. You're going to see, or even Starfield to a degree did a decent job of exploring the lore, and that you're going to come across those things as you play the game. For Mass Effect, for instance, you'll see the engine work. You'll see these different the fauna, like you say. You'll see the different lives, the alien life that you're coming across in the lore, and it builds into that. You'll see the what was the name of the main area, the main hub that we would go to? That
Dawn Shore.
Or you mean the Citadel?
The Citadel. You'll see
yeah.
the Citadel. You'll come across these things, and you'll get an understanding of that. And then when you meet those characters, you get to understand more of them too. And I think that BioWare, for instance, excelled in that, versus here, where you'll talk to people, but it's very limited, and the lore it'll say a few things, but it's also kind of limited, and it's so much that they kind of just throw at you from like, here's a little book, here's a little book, and unless you really like hunker down and try to read through all of that, and I think most won't do that, just to say, because this game, it doesn't lend itself to that, and it's more paced to be a faster completion. I think because already the story is fairly short, right? It's not a very long game. I don't want to say short. It's not a typical Western RPG.
It's a decent sized game, but they're when it comes to RPGs, they're definitely a lot longer RPGs to play through. Yeah,
and that's my only thing. I'm not trying to give it negatives. I would just simply say that I don't think the lore was enough to like pull me in exactly. I didn't dislike it. I just don't think it was the best. I didn't dislike it. I'm just saying like it wasn't like, man, ooh. Like when I played Oblivion, I was fully pulled into that world. I read all this. I read everything. I was fully pulled into it. I understood it. I learned about the elves and the elven ruins and all of that. I understood, about how the king and why they're placing. And I wish I can go into details, but it's been so long, so I can't remember.
Umbra, I think it's because of the place that you're located. Because when you were playing Oblivion, you're in the middle of like an empire that's changing, but you got to remember, you are in the living lands. This is essentially showing up to America when there's still mostly Native Americans, and there are some like colonies here or there or something like that. So they don't have that long of a history, and the people who do have that long history have all been wiped out previously before anybody showed up.
So you're saying we're coming in here as a colonizer? Is that what you're telling me?
Yes, we are colonizers.
You are absolutely a colonizer. You might as well say I'm from France or England, because that's essentially
what's happening. And the question is, are you going to side with the Empire? Are you going to side with Lodwyn? Are you going to side with the people of the Living Lands? And there are different sort of decisions that you could make that lead you towards that sort of decision. But at the end of the day, the Living Lands is relatively new, and so they don't have a lot of that additional lore from the current location that you're at. A lot of the lore that I'm getting as somebody who understands.
It's from different areas that aren't even there.
Empire, it's from the Deerwood. It's from all these other places that have all their cultures coming into. It's like if you had a game that was based in America, and a lot of the lore is coming from France and England and Germany and all these other places, but it's not coming from the place that you're at.
Okay.
Which. In essence, to Umbra's point, that's a bit of a weakness if most of the lore is coming from things that you can't see in front of you. Like when we talked about lore before, and I talked about the history of a castle that you may be going into, or the history of a faction or guild that's in the game. That these are things that are in front of you. These are people who are in front of you. These are items or whatever that are really in front. Like you're dealing with it and you can look at it. Versus, there's a land far away. You ain't seen it yet, but there's this other land far away where like a lot of this is like can be good background information for what's happening right here, right now. That is, it can be fascinating and enhancing for one person, and for another person it could be a nothing burger.
It's not enough. Very beginning, because for somebody like me who has all this knowledge about the world and everything else, me coming to the Living Lands, a place that we've never been able to go to before, is incredibly exciting. And you also see a bunch of different people from a bunch of different cultures merging together, becoming one people. And like everything that you're seeing inside of the Living Lands, outside of the ruins, because the ruins are maybe like 300 to 500 years old, but like everything that's in front of you, all the cities and everything built within the last 100 years.
And that goes to the point. And that's why, like SloMo hit it on the head. For me, it was more like a nothing burger, but it's also because I don't know the lore. So I think it's rewarding more so for people who understand or were a part of the lore and played the Pillars of Eternity games. So to that point, I would say it's rewarding if you've played those, and it's going to give you more. If you hadn't, and depending on the mileage may vary, because it could get you, but for me, it didn't really do it. It was like, okay, That's cool, but yeah, you know. For me, I don't know if it's also maybe the structuring of the game, but it just didn't really do that for me.
It might be the structuring, because that's my. I think it's a decent story and it was okay.
Yeah.
But I think that its weakness for me is that, and maybe this is just the fact that I play a lot of RPGs. I've played a lot of RPGs, and I'm engaged in a lot of stories. And for me, there was nothing here that was exceptional. There weren't any characters from this game that I will say will live with me as I go on. And like, you know how like
I agree with you.
You can mention the series and you can, and immediately when someone mentions that series, you think of a character that
Mass
was
Effect.
just amazing. I mean Garrus,
There you go.
like people say Garrus.
Exactly.
Some people say Miranda Lawson for other reasons, right?
Yeah.
But Tali. People mention, you mentioned the series Dragon Age, Morrigan. People mention a character that comes to mind immediately when they think about the series. And I don't think there's a character in this game that does that. And I think that's mostly because the story, everything that happened in the story, which is what's happening in the moment from beginning to end, nothing of it was to me like anything that, and I'm not going to say it needs to be something I've never seen before, because a lot of the stories are kind of rehashes in a way of other things that have already been written, right? And the more you read things or engage in content, the more you'll find that out. But I have enjoyed better stories from Obsidian before in their previous games.
Yeah.
And so I came in with a level of expectation for this story that I don't think this story quite lived up to. And of course, this is subjective. This is my experience and not necessarily someone else's, because someone else could not play any Obsidian games before. It wouldn't have that level of expectation. But I had that due to with the last Obsidian game I played being Pentiment and that story being fantastic. The Outer World story I thought was better than this story. Knights of the Old Republic 2 story. I mean, the fact that you have a character with you the entire time who is using you and basically like planning to betray you the entire time from the beginning of the game. That was so well done in its execution.
Yeah.
And I would say part of the reason why BioWare did what they did in Dragon Age Inquisition, which is a very similar thing. And I didn't get any of that in this game. And it's not a bad story, but it's just not up to their usual fare.
It's not exceptional.
I thought that the story was incredible. It was incredible. But once again, I have a lot of background knowledge. Yeah. And so that's why before we an hour plus ago before we got into anything, I was like, I don't know how people are going to feel about this story if you don't have the knowledge that I do.
Yeah.
But do you recognize that some people couldn't have that background knowledge and still not find the story exceptional?
I couldn't I couldn't. Like if you had the background knowledge of the Pillars of Eternity 1 and 2, and then you played this game and you think that the story was bad or that you just think that it was okay, I think we need to have serious conversations.
But I'll ask on top of that, do you think?
But once again, I can see it if you didn't have that, if you don't have the knowledge of Pillars of Eternity 1 and 2, if you don't know all that lore.
But is that a fault of the game too?
But there's a difference. This is why I said there's a difference between lore and story, because the story isn't the lore. The story can't be carried by the lore.
Yeah.
Like the lore can only enhance what's there, and what's there is okay, but it's not. The story itself is not exceptional. So the lore can't take it to heights that the story ain't soaring to or close to soaring to. Everything when people talk about great stories in games or in movies or in stuff, they don't bring up all the other additional stuff to the environment and what's happening contributing to the reason why the story was great. They talk about specific moments that happened in the story, in the game, that was mind-blowing, fantastic. We put my controller down and talk about it, you know, that kind of thing.
And
Like an
That's
entire
what they're
city burning,
talking
for an
about.
example.
I'll give you an
that,
example.
That didn't make
I'll-
me. That
I'll
didn't make
give you
me
an
put my
example.
controller. That didn't rise to the level of when that did what that didn't happen in my first playthrough. But in the second playthrough, I mean, that didn't really
I feel like
rise
if
to the
that would
level.
have happened on your first playthrough, you would have probably been more shocked. If
I'll
you
give-
didn't go to the waterfall cave and then you went outside and the entire city was on fire, not purple because they were using their powers, but on fire, and you just saw a bunch of civilians dead on the fucking streets, like
Well,
I
that's
think
what I
probably
saw.
would have hit
That
harder.
happens in every game. I mean, like that happened in Dragon Age: The Veilguard, when you have a choice. You gotta say that very early in the game, you're thrust with this choice. There's two different cities. You can only protect one. Really, you're going to send some people to the other one and try to help them. But the one that you go to, you save, and the one that you don't go to gets bodied for the most part.
Yeah,
and I
true.
never looked at that as like, oh wow, that was an amazing. No, that's typical stuff that you see in these kind of games, especially Western RPGs.
Yeah.
I didn't find that to be like, put my controller down. Oh my God, I can't believe this happened.
I agree with you. I will say though,
for me.
I will say though, as far as presentation, they did a better job of presenting the destruction here versus in that. But like, cause I stepped out of the area and I'm like, whoa.
You're seeing it almost immediately after it happened,
Exactly.
versus like in Veilguard where it's like a day later.
Yeah, it's like a day later that you're coming in and everybody's already, like, most of the bodies are already off the street.
Yeah.
Right.
But I'll throw this in there, and I think SloMo kind of got me my views on it exactly in this versus everything else, and I get your view on it when it comes to it too, Lucius. But my thing of it is this: outside of just the lore and everything like that, and I can appreciate that. I'm not I like and I appreciate good lore, and I would say though that if to me. And it sounds like that if you don't understand the past lores, it's not going to add more to this. So coming across that in this, as I'm trying to get the story for this game, that lore didn't really do anything for me. That's what I would say. And I'm not saying it's a negative. I'm just saying it wasn't a positive. It wasn't like, oh man, this really added a bigger element. It really didn't for me. So just all based off of the story we got here, I would say the story was just okay. It didn't blow me away. I've had better stories. I've had better narratives that I've dealt with in games. And I think this was just okay. And I majorly agree with SloMo when he points out that there are no memorable characters here. If I think about it and talking about it in the future, I might remember a Yatsley. I might remember Kai, right? For sure. But I'm not going to be like, remember Kai? And that's never going to be a discussion.
Time,
Did you finish all of their
half the time I'm playing through.
I did, yeah.
I did all the companion quests as well. Half the time though, I kept calling Kai Garrus because it's the same voice actor.
Yeah, I was calling him Garrus the entire time. He's still Garrus Companion to me, 100%.
Right. I do think that like, Lon, did you ever play Pentiment?
Yes.
Okay, so you know how in Pentiment the story, I think Pentiment is an excellent example of lore impacting the story in the long run, because when you pay attention to what the lore of that little it's in Germany, right? That little German town is.
Yeah.
It really, when you see the things that actually happen there in that place and why they happen and the motivations of certain characters, it really that's like a great enhancement. You still understand the impact of why certain things was done.
Is the greatest writing that Obsidian has ever done.
Josh
like,
Sawyer.
I agree. I agree.
It's like it doesn't even like it. It's so good that nothing else that they've done almost comes close. It's kind of ridiculous how good the writing was.
and
it is fantastic writing. It makes the game, despite people's misgivings, what the game design is.
It's not a gamey type
it
game.
makes it a must play as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah. And that's the thing for me, and I think for all of us, I can tell just knowing how you guys are and having talked with you, a game story can take you, take a game up so high for you. The gameplay and all that matters, of course, but like if you have solid story and foundation, it really does push that game up, and that's what Pentiment did for me. It's not a gamey type game, and many people will not like it for that reason. But if you can get past that and just look at what the story is giving you and the characters you come across and what that means, that's when it'll really take it up for you. If I think about this game here, again, I'm not saying it's a bad story. I don't think I'm bad. And there's nothing necessarily bad about this game. There's just nothing, in my opinion, nothing that is essentially superb or great outside of the visuals with Unreal. That said, let me, and I guess I'll do this wheel spin and then I'll get our scores and we'll get out of here. So for those in the chat and have come by, I'm going to do this wheel spin. I got your names all entered into this wheel spin, at least those who I believe would be entering into this. So I left out a few people that are like content creators. I don't think they're trying to enter into this. But for those who are here, hopefully you guys can check back in the chat. Let me know.
I mean, they might want it, but don't give it to them. It's for people in the community, sort of thing.
Exactly. Your mouth may water, your teeth may grit, but none of this video game your ass gonna get. So
talk to them. Bars.
So, bars. But I got the Dream Scourge. You got the Dream Scourge.
Sapado.
Right. So we're gonna do this wheel spin here, and
Sapado is like DJ Clue on the mixtapes. They just yell out their name,
Right.
in the middle of it.
DJ
Sapado.
So I'm gonna do this wheel spin. Good luck to everybody that came by, and I appreciate you all. Let's see. Talos. Look at that. Talos Ray, you are the winner. Your name is up there.
I don't see my name up here.
Well, you're part of the cast. You part of the spoiler cast up here. You can't be a part of that.
Okay. I
By
did
the
just
way,
buy it anyway, so I guess it doesn't matter.
tried
I
to-
just bought it.
He tried to say he don't see his name. Your name right there. Mortivore. Yep. Nice try, though.
No, but congrats to Talos. That's a good game. From what everyone is saying. I can't wait to get started with it. I might start it tonight, or I might start it tomorrow. But I gotta actually get with Ramon and find out when he wants to do it. Let me send him a message now.
Yeah, I am. I'm probably going to get on it later in a few as well, waiting to see who might be able to be available. But definitely excited to play it, hearing nothing but great things about it. Shout out to you, Talos. Congratulations for the win. I'll contact him, and if he already has it, then I might have to parlay that to somebody else. We'll see what happens. I'll hit him up and see what he's saying. Matter of fact, is Talos even on Twitter? Talos, if you're around, I need you to check in. I don't know how to contact you. Let me make a statement. If I cannot contact you, I'm giving it to somebody else. So,
yeah, give him like 48 hours or something.
yeah, I'll give
Because he knows how to get inside of your Discord. So bare minimum, he can try to do that. He knows what your socials are. If he hears this in the next 48 hours, then he'll be able to get a chance to get the game.
I agree.
If not, it's coming to me.
There you go. Yeah, so Talos check in, or SloMo will take your game from you. So,
I don't even need it. I'm gonna take it anyway, just
Right.
because I'm like that.
Just
That's how I
punish
am.
you. That's on Sappadal. So so let me get you guys overall score of the game and of this world, and we'll get out of
Oh, I'm saying that for the next week, man. That's on
On
Sappadal, man.
here. That's on Sappadal.
Facts. So I'll go quickly. I gave it an 8.5 because, and let me just say this: my experience on PC when the game was running, it was incredible. Frame rates high. Everything practically maxed out. The ray tracing was beautiful. But then my game would crash. And bro, you heard me glaze this game for the past couple hours. So I really love this game.
Mm-hmm.
And why am I giving it an 8.5 and not a 9 or a 9.5 or something like that? It's because my game, during the process of like the first 80 hours when I was playing the game until I finished my first playthrough, I kid you not, I probably crashed somewhere between 30 to 50 times.
Oh, that's
Whoa.
unacceptable.
Whoa.
Now,
Yeah,
I've spoken to a lot of people, and I am the only person who has this experience.
Did you play? You played this through the
hold on.
Xbox PC app, and you
Yes.
have an AMD GPU, right?
Yes, an AMD CPU and GPU.
Yeah, I think it's a combination of two things. One, the Xbox PC app is trash, and when I've played maybe the first 10 hours on the Xbox PC app, and I had 3 crashes. Once I remembered that BattleNet also had the game, and if you have Game Pass, that's the first game that you can actually play on BattleNet without actually owning it. If you have Game Pass and it's in Game Pass, and so I uninstalled it from the Xbox PC app and reinstalled it through BattleNet. Not a single crash after that. Now, Granted, I have an NVIDIA GPU, so I think that because I heard other people say they were getting lots of crashes, and they also had an AMD GPU. So I think it's a combination of two things: AMD GPU and trash Xbox PC app. That led you to have that.
Typically, I see what you're doing, SloMo. You're slandering AMD GPUs, but
I'm
gonna back you up here. I think the reason there's a part of it is because AMD had not provided drivers for a long time. Like, we just got new drivers with the 9070 and 9070 XT release, and I think because they're playing this game of we have to wait until NVIDIA like releases their prices and all this other shit. Because of that, it slowed down the driver releases. So I just got a driver today that covers a bunch of different games, and it seems like my games are running better, but I didn't have drivers for 3+ months. Like the last
come on,
driver
AMD
from AMD was late November.
AMD, that is disgusting. AMD.
And once again, I think the reason why is because they're waiting for the 9070 and 9070 XT release, and because they're trying to figure out the perfect pricing to be able to like stick something in NVIDIA's eye. That kept pushing the driver releases back and back and back, and that's what probably led towards all of my crashing. If I would have received the driver when I should have, I probably wouldn't have run into any of these problems. So I can't necessarily blame the game for that when I know that there's a chance that AMD is at fault here. But it did hinder my overall experience of the game. But overall, 8.5.
This is where it's time to spray and pray. Everybody get some smoke. Xbox PC app, pow. You get some smoke. AMD, pow. You get some smoke. Obsidian, everyone get some smoke for that. That's 30 plus.
Yeah, I would have stopped playing.
30 plus.
That's pretty egregious. That's pretty egregious.
I probably would have stopped playing at that point. 30 plus though.
Once again, I love
Tomato
the game
had the same experience.
much.
He says 30 plus for him too.
Yeah, I love the game that much that I just keep playing it. But if it was any other game that I did not like as much, I would have dropped that shit immediately.
Now, you don't think that should drop your score down a bit though?
Hours? Sorry, what?
You don't think that should drop your score down though, your overall?
I did. It is an 8.5 because of that.
Oh wow! So you were like at a 9 before that.
I was at like a 9, and then like just all the crashes constantly because the exploration is great. I love the connection of world and lore that I already love. I love the combat. I love the possibilities of like entire fucking cities burning if you don't make the right decision about something. Like, I like all of the things about the game. I like the fact that I was able to convince the big bad guy at the very end of it, because I was such a fucking big brain, to fucking kill themselves. That's lit. I loved all of that about the game. But at the end of the day, because I had 30 plus crashes, I had
does
to
not stand by Lucius's statements of offing yourself. Those are Lucius's minds.
Oh wow, he has the same GPU that Lucius has.
Yeah, so he has the 7900 XTX. I'm pretty sure this is like an AMD problem. This is like because AMD did not update their drivers, but there's new drivers out, and that should probably fix the problem. And also, if you have this issue for any game, and it's just weird and you can't figure out what's going on, a tiny bit of troubleshooting that you can do: go into settings inside of Windows, then go into apps, installed apps, find the exact app that you're looking for, like so in the game that you're running, click on the 3 different things and go into that and press terminate, because that creates, there's like these paths that Windows creates. If you press terminate, then the next time that you restart the game, it has to reestablish all those paths, and it takes like an additional minute to be able to start the game. But now you don't have to reinstall the game to be able to see if there's something broken, because sometimes when you try to repair, it won't repair, or it won't actually fix what's the problem with it. So if you press terminate and then start the game again, this will most likely fix your problem, as it did for me before the drivers came out. Shout out to Asante for teaching me that.
Nice. Okay, so an 8.5 for you, even with 30 plus crashes. Man, you really must have really loved this. Okay,
I really like the game. I would have given it a 9
I see,
or
I
more.
see. And what about you, SloMo? What was your overall score and take for the game?
I normally don't do scores because I feel you could talk glowingly about a game. You could go into great details about how you feel about a game, and then you give a score, and all people do is take the score and give their personal impression of what that score is, and just ignore everything else you say about a game typically. And whenever I've done reviews in the past, I have declined to do a score to force people to pay attention. But in light of all that, I'll give a score this time. I give it an 8. I think it's a very good game, and the 8 is, you say an 8 nowadays, and people go, an 8.
Right.
It's just like, what the. Like an 8's good score. Like,
Yeah,
like it's a very good
how
score.
far we've dropped down.
Yeah. Yeah, it almost seems as if a game doesn't get a 9, then it's like, why bother? Like, why'd you even make this garbage? It didn't get a 9. It's just like, what? Like, what are you talking about?
So
I think it's kind of fueled by console wars and platform wars and stuff.
Yep. I
But
blame our
it's an 8
for it for sure. They started that nonsense.
Oh yeah, they ain't the only ones. The bot brigade
They
plays a
followed
part in
after
it
him.
too.
Yeah, they followed right after him.
But
They had to compete with him, and like, yeah, 90. Oh, you didn't get a 90 for this game. It was so stupid.
Yeah. As far as performance goes, I mostly like I said, a few crashes. I switched over to BattleNet, didn't get a single crash after that. What I did do is I manually switched out the DLSS upscaler from, they have 3.7 in the game, and I manually switched it out to DLSS 4.0 that was already out. That was out before Obsidian dropped Avowed, but considering that they probably was like, 3.7 maybe came out maybe in September, I think. They may have felt like that was good enough, but 4 uses a completely separate model of upscaling than DLSS, anything that's DLSS 3. So it really made the visuals even better. Greater details, less noise in the environment, it really helped. But eight's good. It's a good game.
Yeah.
And everything I've said before about it stands, and that's about where I would put it if I had to give it a score.
So for me, I was taken in earlier by it. When I really got into it, I was blinded by its majesty and its splendor. And I really do like the combat in Avowed, I will say. My second playthrough is going to be as a mage. I'm going to try it the way you all played through first. I don't know if I'm going to be as spongy as you were, Lucius. I don't like being spongy. I'm almost always a warrior in these types of games. Anybody that knows me could tell you that. Any type of RPG, that's typically what I go for. Paladin, knight, something like that. I want to be a warrior. So
I don't have to worry about health if I don't hit a hit.
There you go. So I'm going to try to get. I've played enough now where I know how to dodge and get out of the way. And that is if I don't accidentally jump and get my ass kicked. But with pressing the A button. But that said, really was taken in early by the game. I was like really blown away. I thought the visuals were exceptional, especially playing it on PC. I'm not trying to rub it in anybody's face on console, but like to SloMo's.
No, rub it.
I'm sorry, it does.
Rub it all in.
Rub it out. This goes out to Sappadal. It looks damn good on this damn 4080 is super. I gotta tell you, and even this gameplay you're seeing here doesn't do it enough justice, in my opinion. Seeing it on my OLED, it's just like So I was taken in by that. I think the world itself looks really cool when you come to the general aesthetics and just the world building it does. And I thought the combat, like I said, was pretty fun. It was engaging for me. So I had a really high impression earlier. It was like a 9. And then once I got to get the nuance of things and I really started to put it together and really got more critical and to be more balanced, I noticed like, okay, there's some things I'm definitely not, I'm ignoring because I'm enjoying these other parts. And once I started to put that into perspective, my score dropped. And I don't say that to be like, oh, the game is just not deserving, but the game, if I'm being fair, didn't deserve, I would say, in my opinion, for me at least, the high 9s or anything like that. I think the game is rated fairly well. I know some people will say, oh, the Xbox tax. I don't think they got them on this one. I don't think this was taxed.
I agree with that.
Yeah, I think this was a fairly reviewed game, honestly.
But people would say, I never think anything has an Xbox tax, which is mostly true. So,
yeah.
But yeah,
I think there are definitely biases from journalists, and if one way or another, if they're positive towards you or not, right? Nintendo gets a lot of positive bias, for instance. So I think that's what the tax comes down to. Essentially, is that do they have a favorable view of your world, of the characters you're giving them? And I think typically Sony games and Nintendo games, journalists kind of got more of a favorable view. There are some Xbox games, maybe like a Forza, they might have a favorable view of, but I think in general, a lot of Xbox games don't really get that from the journalists. And I think that's where the tax part plays out. You know what I mean? It sounds more nefarious when you say it like a tax, but I think that's really what it is. It's just bias. It's unconscious bias. But that said, I think just totaling it all up together, enjoying the world and going around exploring, to Lucius's point, I love the exploring bits. I felt like there was an overabundance of treasure chests and things to get, like almost to the point like it was absurd. Like there's a treasure
Give me
chest
all
everywhere.
that. Give me all that.
I loved it though. I did love it, but it was kind of overdone. I will say it's not a negative.
I thought it was I hate finding a path somewhere and then there's nothing there.
Yeah, no,
why did I come over here in the first place then? You better have a chest over here or something.
I'm leaving here with something.
Right. and most of the time there's just a lot of materials in there, but if you understood that you're supposed to do crafting, you're supposed to go to the workbench and because you could take a weapon and you got in the first area, carry that with you all the way to end game, and it would be as impactful as it was in the first area against the final boss, simply due to you taking your due time and diligence to take the materials you got and put them to good use. I think a lot of people have a misconception of the way loot or materials and gear and weapons are done in other games and assume that that's the way it's supposed to be in this game, where if I open up a chest, I'm supposed to get a weapon or a shield or a gun or something. Right. And, give me something. And then you giving me some daggone like bird feathers. I don't care about that. Why you giving me bird feathers for? The bird feathers supposed to help you make your bow better. Right. Like it's just that's the way they set things up. When you understand the system behind it, then you can then go there and say, well, how was that executed? I think that's good well though.
To that I agree. Yeah. I mean, I just say like it's kind of funny when you're really kind of paying attention, because like I said, I was looking everywhere. I literally went to if they were talking about it beforehand, like, oh, you won't be able to visit every spot on the map. I mean, technically they're correct because they purposely leave out areas so you can't get to. But essentially, as far as what you can get to, I was there. So that said, I came across a ton of secrets. I uncovered a ton of secrets. I uncovered a ton of chests, even underwater. Like I found so much stuff everywhere. So just for that reason, I felt like, damn, they got chests everywhere. So it was just kind of funny. But essentially for me, really enjoyed this world. I do think the game was great. I don't think it was just good. I think it was great. So I came to an 8.5. But if I'm being really critical, it'd probably be more like an 82, 83. But I'm going to give it an 85. I'm going to be more fair. because I did really enjoy it. I'm not going to try to make it like I be critical. I didn't really. No, I enjoyed my time. I really did love my time with this game and this world. So I'm not going to try to downplay it. I'm just going to be honest. And I don't expect everybody to agree with any of us on whatever. Just in general, I think we've all given our thoughts throughout this whole discussion, and I think we've been fair. You know what I mean? And I agree with both of you guys on where you landed, honestly, in different ways. And I think you all have explained yourselves pretty well too. So, and that's our discussion, folks. We came to an 85 for me, 85 for Lucius, and an 80. Was it 2 for you or 81?
I said 80.
80, sorry, an 80 for SloMo, and I think all are fair within the bounds of what we explained for them for where we landed. So, not sure where you guys in the chat are at and what you came to, and if you've beaten it, what you feel, but that's where we're at. And I want to thank you all for being here with us in here and riding with us. Talos Ray, if anybody can get in contact with Talos, please let that brother know. Dante came to an 89. Okay, dang. Okay, Dante, he really enjoyed it. So if anybody can get in contact with Talos Ray, let him know that he did win the split fiction wheel spin. I don't even know if he was aware. But if he doesn't get in contact with me,
I wonder if he's on Twitter. I'll double check.
That's what I'm wondering. Yeah. If he doesn't get in contact with me, if I can't find him, he's gonna have to go to somebody else. So, but yeah, let's get out of here, guys. Lucius, I'll start with you. Tell the good folks where they can and can't find you. Knowing you,
don't look for me.
Yeah,
don't look for me. If you find me, I will ignore you. I do not want to be seen, perceived. Leave me alone. I got my life. You got yours. If you would like to engage with me on Discord, then you can find me in the Gaming Circle Discord, where we have conversations like this all the time. But outside of that, I don't need you trying to figure out where I am.
And there you go. He is literally the elusive man. Literally. Massive. So I also have our issue. I mean, not our issue. I also have our guest information in the description. So for Lucius, I literally have follow Lucius Augustus exclusively on Discord, the Gaming Circle Podcast Discord link, so you all can find him there reliably. And what were you going to say, SloMo?
Oh, just something I just saw that says completely unrelated.
Oh.
That Forza Horizon 5 on PlayStation will require a Microsoft account to play.
Oh, wow.
Just like Minecraft on PlayStation.
Yep.
Oh, yeah, that's right. It does, huh? Yeah. So, yeah, SloMo, man, first off, I want to thank both of you for coming through and giving your knowledge and your wisdom and your thoughts on this right here. But SloMo, tell the good folks about yourself, man, where they can find you and what you'll be up to.
You can find me on the DPS channel, the DPS gaming channel. That's damage per second gaming. We have a podcast that we do Thursday nights, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, in addition to other content, live streams, uploaded videos. My co-conspirator, Gaming Forte, is the guy that, does all this content with me. We've been doing it for a few years. It's been a good time. I will I don't know if I have access to even put the link in the chat, so I won't. But
if
that's where you can find me.
You know what? You don't have to. I already have it in the description. So I have
okay, cool.
Yeah, guys, check out the description. It's for DPS and for BRAP. Mileage may vary with BRAP, but with damage per second.
Oh man.
But with damage per second, I have both links for the shows that SloMo's a part of as well. So check that out there and subscribe to damage per second if you get a chance.
Appreciate you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and so thank you guys again for being in the chat. If you have not done so, please hit the like button before we get out of here. And if there's anybody lurking or anything like that and you haven't subscribed to a brother, please do so. I'm trying to get to 2,000, not that far away. So we'd like to get that before the end of this year or something like that. I'm lofty. But yeah, man, let's get out of here. As far as myself, Infinite Umbra or Umbra Infinite, you'll find me either way on social media, be that Twitter
or taking a nap.
Or taking a nap. I'm going to get me some naps in. And yeah,
He's a working man.
Indeed. And Tuesdays, of course, on Boom's podcast, Xbox Factory, with myself, Jamie Moran, and Boom. Thursdays, of course, my show, The Fix, with myself and co-host Daniel J. McGee. And Fridays, The Infinite Podcast with myself, Risky for the Biscuit, as host. That Blue Number, who you all have been simping over lately a lot. I've been seeing y'all. And my brothers, Dante, Moody, and Garuda. So yeah, come through and check us out. That's
brothers is thirsty.
Yeah, these brothers. That brother's thirsty. Yeah,
That brother's starving.
that brother's starving. That's on Sapodal. But when we get out of here, you guys have a good one. Enjoy some gaming. And again, Talos Ray, man, if you're hearing this or somebody gets in contact with them, please let them know what's up. We'll see you guys later.